alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK. That's what it sounded like over the weekend as the St. Louis Cardinals were swept by the Seattle Mariners.
Oh, damn.
You sound a little happy as you said that, man.
Yeah, why are you smiling?
I was
got a big
fine
smirk
with
on
the
your
weekend.
face.
I actually thought they played pretty well. Am I alone in this? I know that there are some that are like, hey,
we don't
man,
accept losing on this show.
sky's falling. By the way, audio courtesy of Cardinals TV. Sky's falling. Cardinals stink now. Yeah, guys, it's a rebuilding season. We kind of knew this was the way that things were probably going to go. They were going to lose more often than they win. They weren't outclassed by the Mariners over the weekend. I think the Mariners are really good. I don't care what the record shows. That's a good baseball team, and they've got some really good pitching across the way. And the Cardinals' offense looked good. You got some positive returns, really positive returns from JJ Wetherholt. T-Bone, you mentioned this earlier today. How many times did he strike out over the weekend?
That would be 0.
Okay, that's
Dang.
good. Nathan Church looks good over the weekend. You guys church head yet?
No.
Church curious
No,
yet?
it's fun.
I was church curious on Friday, to be fair.
It's fun to see them, but let's not get over our skis a little bit here. Let's just enjoy it. Enjoy
I'm
what you
Scott
have.
negative. Does that count for anything?
Yeah, we'll get into
I'm
it
there.
later.
Can I get in that camp? I'm on that camp.
Yeah, I think we might all be on that camp.
I'm not Scott curious anymore.
I thought Andre Palante looked good.
Yeah.
I thought Michael McGreevy looked good. Not worried about the bullpen, whatever. It is what it is.
We know
that was
that's
a perfect
bad.
rebuild weekend, guys. Your team lost and you didn't look awful.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Sounds like a good weekend to me. I felt pretty good coming off of the weekend, despite, yes, I understand they lost 3 in a row. Alex, how you feeling
You know
today?
why you feel good about it? Because you don't have the expectations that are unrealistic. Like, if this would have been last season, we'd all be very upset.
Oh, yeah.
Or maybe I'd be, and BK would be trying to convince us, like, guys, it's fine. Look how competitive they are. This was...
That does sound like him.
It did, didn't it? Maybe not the hand motion.
could
That's more
already
me.
tell.
It's an Italian thing.
I would have probably come on here today and said, guys, they played against one of the best teams in baseball. They lost 3 in a row. They were all super competitive. They were 50-50 games.
Bing, bing, bing.
That's what I would have said last
And
year.
he would have been like, they can still do it. That was the perfect weekend. I mean, every single game against the Seattle Mariners. Now, look, I know that the Mariners aren't world beaters right now in the American League when you look at it, but still, you stayed in one-run games with these guys all the way through to the end. The worst part of your team right now is what blew those games for you, but your offense continues to be competitive, and T-Bone brought this one up in the office. You went up against one of the best pitching pipelines in Major League Baseball, people view it as, and you found ways to pick up runs against them. You're right, you're starting pitching 2 of those games. You held that team to fewer than 5 runs. Overall, that's what you want in rebuilding seasons. You want games to be close, so you feel good about yourself, but you still want the ultimate losses. It's something that the Blues failed to do in the last couple of months of the season. The Cardinals are doing it in this sense, and this was the stretch that I always felt was going to get away from them. But if that's the way it gets away, to where they're close games but they're losses, that's perfect if I'm the Cardinals.
Yeah, DJ Patty Cake says on the YouTube chat, youtube.com/101 ESPN STL, on a 5-game slide, but I'm not worried or upset. We look good losing. That sounds really strange, but yeah, that's exactly how I viewed it over the weekend. You lose 3-2 in a super competitive, tight 50-50 game on Friday. You lose 3-2 yesterday in a super tight, competitive game. And on Saturday, the ball was flying out of the ballpark, and you were part of that. Like, the Cardinals hit, 5 home runs on Saturday?
Yeah.
Yeah, it sucks to lose that game. You certainly wish when you score 9 runs you could win, but Matthew Liberatore was just that bad, and you got a really bad day out of Riley O'Brien, basically for the first time all season long. You can't account for that. You can't expect that. I thought Ollie pushed all the right buttons. We'll get into his performance over the weekend coming up in the 12 o'clock hour, but I thought he pushed the right buttons. The guys just didn't execute. And sometimes that happens, especially when you're in the midst of a rebuild where, hey, we're going to test out some young guys in some spots that might be a little tough for them to navigate at times.
Yeah, if the Cardinals had lost these 3 games and their biggest problem would have been their offense, and that would have been kind of the theme of the season is the offense isn't hitting, then I think there would be some concern, even though it was a rebuild, because this was the year where you're trying to get answers on the offense, right? It was the thing that we talked about, like, okay, you got to try and get some positive answers on Walker, on Gorman. You got to see what Wetherholt looks like. We all knew going into the year they weren't going to get really any answers for the future on their pitching staff. Like, maybe McGreevy would pitch his way into the future, which it looks like he's going to. We had some questions about, like, okay, what does this year mean for Matthew Liberatore? But outside of that, we kind of knew what the pitching was going to be, and then same with the bullpen, right? Nobody thought Justin Brule would be here for the long term. The only guys that you thought would be here in the long term are maybe Swanson, and I don't even know that if you would put him in that category because bullpens are so fickle. So, yeah, this was the perfect kind of rebuilding weekend. Your pitching was bad, which we all knew it was going to be coming into the year. And the offense has been a pleasant surprise and showed itself over the weekend with Wetherholt having a good series. Herrera had a good series. Church, as you had mentioned, had a good series. It was the perfect rebuilding weekend for the Cardinals.
Well, and that's the thing you asked, like, what was your biggest takeaway from the weekend? It wasn't so much that you lost as it was your offense. Like, it's the one area I did not believe was going to be as competitive as they have been this season, to where you're actually showing the ability to showcase your power. You're getting on base more, you're making contact, and there's a little bit more length to this lineup than what I originally thought. So the fact that we're almost through the month of April and I'm pleasantly pleased with what this offense is, this is the starting point. This was where we talked about, like, can you at least get 2 guys that look good? And now you're getting 3, 4, or 5 guys that you feel, hey, they could be competitive on a team that's trying to win in Major League Baseball.
Now, Alex, you gave me crap for what I would be saying if this was last year. I can tell you what you'd be saying if it was last year.
Sure, let's hear it. You can do the voice too if you want.
With runners in scoring position.
Oh, wow. I mean, yeah.
It's been awful. Like, they are a pretty productive lineup overall. T-Bone told us earlier, they're top 10 in Major League Baseball in home runs on the season. Now, too many of them are solo shots because, you know, you're not hitting with runners in scoring position. They have 5 home runs this season with runners in scoring position. You'd like that number to be higher. Some of that's sequencing. It's good or bad fortune, but whatever. On the season, they're the second least productive lineup in Major League Baseball with runners in scoring position. Now, they're getting a lot of runners into scoring position. They're top 7 in Major League Baseball in that category in terms of plate appearances with runners in scoring position. That's great. And over time, because they're good in non-runners in scoring position situations, I would expect them to be better. This, I think, will regress in a positive way as you continue to play. But so far this year, I can't say that because it hasn't been good enough. And this might be one of those situations where, hey, it's young guys learning on the job. You're getting the middle of your order to come up with these situations, and they're getting on base. They have a really high walk rate. That's good. I mean, it's better than the alternative where you're striking out every 5 seconds with runners in scoring position. They're just not putting the ball in play enough. And when they do, they're not cashing in with hits. They're batting .215 in those situations.
Ouch.
As a team, they're batting much better than that overall in the season. They have 7 different guys in this lineup that are above league average on the year. That's a hell of a lot better, to Alex's point, than I was expecting. I thought it would be like 4 at this point in the year. But they've had a few guys that have outperformed their expectations. JJ Wetherholt with another outstanding weekend this past weekend. They just aren't doing it in the biggest moments right now.
Yeah, and you're right. I would be complaining about that right now. I would be Debbie Downer, but I'm not, because this isn't a team that's supposed to be competitive. And this is the learning ins and outs of how to win in Major League Baseball. It's an area that for the longest time has had to be fixed, and it's not there yet. Now, you'd like to see improvement from guys like Herrera and Burleson in that area, and Jordan Walker. If we get hyped about them, like, you want to see those steps. But in a season like this, it's the last thing I'm worried about, as much as I'm more concerned about the competitive at-bats by individuals and the results that they're having on the field.
And maybe this would be something I'd be saying as well, by the way, like last year as well. If you've got 7 guys above league average right now in your lineup, odds are eventually they're going to hit with runners in scoring position. Now,
agreed.
I probably would have said that last year too, and then it didn't end up happening. But I will continue to bang that drum of, okay, if you've got 7 guys that are above league average, at some point they're going to start to come through with runners in scoring position, because this doesn't feel like a group that suddenly just gets tight when they go to the plate. They feel like they take the same at-bats constantly.
Well, one guy that I maybe can't say that about is Walker. Walker has just not been good in those situations. He's striking out 37% of the time that he comes up with a runner in scoring position this year.
He may be one of those where he doesn't get tight, he just gets over-aggressive.
Yeah, that might be
that
the
one
case.
actually would match the eye test, too.
He's somehow above league average because he's done a little bit of damage in those spots, but he's batting 172 and he's striking out.
It's okay.
You need a little more. By the way, I always find this strange. There are 2 guys on this team that are negative in terms of OPS plus.
Oh, that's not
with
good.
Runners in scoring position.
That's awful.
Can you name them?
Scott.
That's one.
Yeah.
He's -4. He's batting 118 with runners in scoring position.
Gorman.
Nope.
Pies.
There's one guy who has come up to the plate 12 times with a runner in scoring position and has not recorded a single hit in those situations. Nope.
Win.
Nope.
Pozo.
Nope.
Is it a starter?
a guy that starts occasionally.
Arias?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, at least it's not for mean.
He is 0 for 12. He does have 1 RBI on the season
How?
with a runner in scoring position.
What?
Did he get hit by a pitch
He
or
must
something?
have hit a sack fly or
Yeah, I
something.
think it was a sack fly. So that's where they're at in those situations.
I'll complain about RISP in a couple of years. Right now, I'm just going to enjoy the rebuild.
I don't think it'll take that long, but
I don't know. We've been talking about it for about 3 years already, man.
you know what I'm saying? I think by next year, if we're still doing this,
Oh, okay.
I think he'll
No.
eventually get to the place.
Come on, man. We can't get
Complaining
too.
with it.
You can't get too overly excited. You can't prematurely get out of a rebuild. You just got to let the rebuild happen.
Yeah, no, you would never do that, especially not with the St.
Well,
Louis
only
Blues. We'll talk
for
about them later
teams
on.
that are actually out of it, like the Blues.
JJ Wetherholt over the weekend was 5 for 14 with 2 home runs. And on the season, he's now 20% above league average offensively. This guy's 23. He's putting together one of the better rookie seasons, at least through the first, fifth of the season. He's on pace now for 30 home runs, 25 stolen bases, and 80 RBI on the season. That would be up there with like what Dylan Carlson did as a rookie, or what Paul DeYoung did as a rookie, or what Tommy Edman and Brendan Donovan did as rookies. It's one of the better rookie seasons by a Cardinal if he continues on this pace in the last decade. Alex, what's been your impression of JJ Wetherholt in the early portion of the season?
Just his composure at the plate, just his ability to not struggle under pressure. And I know there haven't been a whole lot of pressure-filled situations for him this season, kind of just where the Cardinals have been at. But it's just his presence when he steps to the plate. I told you guys at the beginning of the season, it just gives a lot of Matt Carpenter vibes to it, to where he'll step to the plate, doesn't really matter what the pitch count is, he'll find a way to get it back into his favor, and he finds a way to make contact. And that, to me, is massive for a rookie at Major League level. If you're already doing that to where, as we talked about, you go through a Mariners series and don't strike out, that to me is the building blocks of what you can become as a rookie in Major League Baseball. So mine's just the presence, and I know the power has dipped a little bit, and maybe the home runs weren't there like we talked about early on, but I think this guy's got all of the makings to be that star. It's just a different type of star than what I think people thought they were getting.
Yeah, I don't know if he'll be a superstar or star, but man, Matt Carpenter's a great comp. I can't believe how well he knows the zone for a rookie. I mean, it's unbelievable because going into the weekend, he was hitting like 210, but you had like a 350 on base percentage, which is absurd. And that's what makes me confident to where, like, I understand he hadn't been hitting for average till it really got boosted from his great weekend against Seattle. It's why I hadn't been any concerned about what his batting average was going to be, because if he's got that good of an eye and is doing a good enough job of laying off of stuff outside the zone, eventually teams are going to have to start pitching into the zone against him, just like we talked about with Herrera, right? Herrera was taking his walks. At some points, teams are going to come into the zone for him, and when they do, he's going to do damage. I expect the same thing for Wetherholt. Maybe it won't be so much damage as it'll be like doubles, more singles, but I think he's going to have a really good rookie season and be a guy that's going to be about 20% above league average.
He looks like Brendan Donovan. Like, that's the comparison that I would go with, because we've seen this with Donnie before in the past, where Donnie would go through stretches where what T-Bone's saying would happen. Teams would come into the zone. He's like, cool, I'll just do damage here. The one thing that I've been surprised by is the lack of double power so far this season, but I think that's coming. I think we just haven't seen teams get aggressive going into the zone against him just yet. So when that happens and when the weather starts to really heat up, I think you're going to start to see him just lasering doubles to the outfield, like right and left center field through the gaps. I think that's going to be his game as things start to progress here. I've been wildly impressed by what we've seen. Defensively has been a huge surprise to me so far this season. I think he's been a legit plus defender at second base. He's getting on base at a really high clip. He's doing more damage than I thought he would. He's just a really good all-around player. That's a guy that I want on a winning club. And I don't know what that means for him long-term. I don't know what the ultimate ceiling is or any of these things. We'll talk about that, I'm sure, over the next 3 to 5 years, what the ceiling can be for a guy like JJ Wetherholt. But guy's a good baseball player, and you want to accumulate as many of those as you can. Nothing about the hype looks like it was unjustified at this point. He looks to be the type of player that the Cardinals sold you on, and that has not always been the case in the past. you can see right through it when they get to the major league level a lot of the time. It's been the opposite with JJ Wetherholt. He's lived up to all expectations so far. If you guys would like to get involved in the show, 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line to do so. You can always check us out and get involved in the YouTube chat at youtube.com/101ESPNSTL. Coming up in about 15 minutes, we will get into the college football landscape and what the NFL draft told us about it, coming up in just a little bit. But next, Nathan Church starting to win some people over. What does his future look like in a Cardinals uniform? And is it in left? We'll talk about that next here on 101 ESPN.
Swing and a drive. Church has done it again. Swing, fly ball, well hit right track wall. Church.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK, that is what it sounded like over the weekend on Cardinals TV. Nathan Church, few different home runs. He's showing some of that power that we've talked about. He's now up to 5 home runs on the season. Alex, he's not going to play in 162 games this year because he's already missed a few of them. But if he were to do so, he would be on pace for 34 home runs, 90 RBI, and 20 stolen bases.
Sheesh.
He also has an OPS right now of 820, which includes a slugging percentage of .505. That's a hell of a year for a guy that's known for his defense and speed, man. Mm-hmm. He's looking like Pete Crow Armstrong out there right now. Now, part of that is also because he is swinging and missing a decent amount. He does chase quite a lot. If you look over at his Baseball Savant page, there are some numbers that would suggest, all right, what you're seeing right now, it's fun. It's probably not sustainable over the long haul, though. But, man, he's above league average offensively, and he plays a great left field, and he's capable of playing in center. What have you made of Nathan Church's recent performance, and is it changing your outlook for him?
A little bit, and I think it's because of Victor Scott is why it's changing my outlook on Nathan Church, because at least if this guy is swinging and missing, when he makes contact, he does damage. And we've said this about Nolan Gorman in the past, and the problem with that is, yeah, but he doesn't make contact a whole lot when he goes through those slumps. And the part that's probably most impressive for me with Nathan Church was the slump that he went through. And then he broke out of it by going on the pace of what you just put together, 13 for 32 with a 1,200 OPS. Now, that's not going to sustain. He's going to hit more slumps. But I always find it fascinating when a player comes out of a slump like he was, what was it, 0 for 14 early on this season?
Yeah, that slump you're referring to, 14 games, a .065 batting average and an OPS of 279.
And he breaks out with 4 home runs and just completely pulverizing the baseball. So, yeah, he's changing my outlook. Now, I don't believe Nathan Church is an everyday outfielder for 162 games, but I think Nathan Church is that perfect fourth outfielder that can play a sustained stretch for you. And why I said Victor Scott is why he's changing my mind is because I've seen Victor Scott in this same time frame that I've seen Nathan Church have the ultimate high on opening day, go through that stretch that T-Bone just mentioned, and then broke out of it doing what he's been doing in the last 7 or 8 games. Victor Scott has been consistent all season to where he has struggled massively. So I know it doesn't matter now, but when Lars Nootbaar is healthy, Nathan Church is my center fielder. Victor Scott is, I don't know what their options are going to be if you want to send him to Memphis, if you keep him on the big league roster, but Victor Scott will lose that job to Nathan Church if he continues this pace.
Yeah, I'm Church curious right now because I don't know that I would be willing to say that he's not an everyday outfielder yet because I just don't know. I want to continue to see him out in left field because his profile is enough to kind of has me curious as to, okay, he's on a heater right now, but when you look at that Baseball Savant page that you made reference to, it doesn't really match what the eye test is saying. So it makes me wonder if, okay, can Church continue to outperform what his Baseball Savant page would say, or will that eventually catch up to him?
It'll catch up.
But you can't deny what he's doing right now to where he's on a hot streak to where if he can get hot and just go through kind of like Gorman stretches where he's like this for about a 15-game stretch, but then goes cold for 15 games, you're talking about a guy that could have decent pop, that's got good defense, he got a cannon of an arm out there in left field. That's a guy that could hopefully be around like league average, and then his WAR would be boosted by his defense. So I'm Church curious as to what's going on with him. I like what we've seen from him. I think there's a chance that he could potentially win this job over Victor Scott when Nootbaar comes back in a month or so.
So I was looking into some things on Victor Scott earlier today.
Yeah, good stuff, I bet.
You guys know how much I love Vic.
Yeah.
Like, I like him as a person.
I love the style that he plays. I love the speed. I love the defense. I love the aggressiveness.
I know BK loved his process in the offseason.
Yeah, and that's what matters, not the results.
Exactly.
I really like Victor Scott, and I want this to work for him. But at some point, the results have to matter. Not yet, because you don't have an obvious alternative. I'm with you guys. If this continues and Lars Nootbaar returns in, let's call it a month, then I think you should probably be playing Nathan Church most days in center field. But right now, you don't have an obvious replacement for Victor Scott in the lineup. I don't think there is one. I don't think you're calling up Joshua Baez when you know that Lars Nootbaar is going to have that job within the next month or so. I don't think you're going to bring up like Cesar Prieto to play in the outfield. I don't think they're bringing up Blaze Jordan to play at first and then moving Alec Burleson into the outfields. I don't think any of those are realistic outcomes here. So for the next month, I think that's the runway, if you want to go with that word, for Victor Scott II. But again, as I was looking things up earlier today, the list of non-catchers since 2000 with an OPS below 565 in their first 3 seasons. Nick Allen, Isan Diaz, Lewis Brinson, Victor Scott II. End of list. That is among players with a minimum of at least 500 plate appearances in their first 3 seasons. Vic has been one of the least productive regulars in Major League Baseball since he got into the lineup for the Cardinals. You don't need him to be great offensively. He can't be this, though. He can't be an absolute zero at the bottom of your lineup. Because when he is, it limits what you're able to get from the top of your order. It limits what JJ Wetherholt is able to do in terms of driving guys in. It limits what you're able to get out of Ivan Herrera in that 2-hole. It limits what you're able to get out of Alec Burleson in the 3-hole. It is having a tangible impact on wins and losses this season. And he is also, in my opinion, not making up for that with his defense so far this year. There have been times where his arm has been such a liability that guys are just running freely on him the way that they used to run freely on Ivan Herrera when he's behind the plate. That has to matter at some point when your offense is this bad. So he's got to start performing. He's got about a month, I would assume, to do it. And if he doesn't, then yeah, I think you're going to see more of Nathan Church in center field and Victor Scott either on the bench or eventually maybe losing his spot on the big league team to go down to AAA to figure things out.
Yeah, I mean, they're getting to that point on that decision because you're right. You can have a guy that is below league average slightly that brings something to the table with his glove, right? I mean, this was Mason Wynn last year, right? Mason Wynn was a guy that at shortstop wasn't good offensively. He was, I think, 10%, 8% below league average, but he won a Gold Glove, right? He actually made a tangible difference on the baseball game when he was out there playing at the shortstop position. And you could hit him low in your order and you'd feel fine about it. The same can be said for Victor Scott if he can just find a way to boost up that offense a little bit, or the defense is going to have to even take a further step, which I don't even think is possible because then you're talking about an unbelievable defender. And like you said on his arm, look at what Seattle tried to do. I know it didn't work, but they tried it. I think it was on the Cole Young hit yesterday, if I remember correctly, where it's just kind of a little lazy bloop single into left center field. And they saw Scott go to get that ball, and he tried to take second base, and Scott barely got him out on a ball that, by the way, bounced into second base. So they are taking advantage of that arm. And I know the Cardinals have tried to downplay a lack of an arm in center field before, looking at Tommy Edman and his noodle arm. But if you're not providing offense, which Edman would be able to do, you're spot on as to where, okay, well, at some point we have to have a conversation about when Nootbaar comes back, what the future will hold for Victor Scott. And then it just comes down to a question because how much do they think, how much of a confidence hit would it take Scott if he were to be sent down to the minors, right? Are they caught in a tough situation where they have to keep him here at the big league level? But I don't know that you can fix his bat if he's sitting on the bench constantly.
That's the thing. Eventually, like, I don't know if his role is, I don't know if the Cardinals are willing and ready to say he's a fourth outfielder long term. And if they're not, you probably don't put him into that spot right now. And that would mean, hey, like, you do on the position player side of things what Andre Palante had to do as a pitcher, where he went down and he figured out his arsenal and he found a way to make himself into a legit major league starter. And if you're Victor Scott, it may become a situation where they go to you and say, hey, what do you want out of your career? Are you cool with just being a fourth outfielder and a pinch runner, and occasionally you get in as a defensive replacement? Because if you are, you can be at the big league level and we'll just keep you here. But if that's not what you want to be, if you want to be something more than that, you have to figure out what you're going to do offensively. You've got to be more than a net negative offensively. You've got to be at least passable. And if you can become that at the AAA level, you can earn your way back into the lineup as a starting center fielder, because I still think that's in there for him. But he's got to be better than this offensively, man. It's been really bad to start out this season. It's one of the worst starts for a Cardinal in a really long time.
And the reason I mentioned the risk of sending him down to AAA is if you do that, and I think that would be the path that they would probably choose, just because, one, if you go to Scott and say, what do you want to be? Fourth outfielders kind of bounce around between majors and minor leagues. So if you're him, it probably would be best to just see if you can fix your offense in
Victor
AAA.
Scott is a confident individual. He's going to look at you and say, I'm not a fourth outfielder.
The reason I mentioned that is why it could be such a huge it could be just a huge risk is, okay, well, what if he goes down like they did in 23 when his first year was, or 24? Because he didn't hit at AAA then, right? So what happens if you send him down and he doesn't hit? Like, now you're just talking about you've lost the player completely. Now, I would say my answer to that would be, well, then you just found out he's not a big leaguer.
That's what I would say as well.
Now, the Cardinals would probably say, well, we've got to balance this of like, okay, well, we can't just lose his confidence. And I would say, okay, well, you got to have confidence to play the big leagues, right? So that would be my point to them of if he goes down there and doesn't hit, you got your answer. Even though it wasn't at the major league level, you got your answer through AAA that he's just not a big leaguer.
Alongside T-Bone and Alex, I'm BK. You got BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. In about 15 minutes, we'll get into questions and answers. 314-399-9646. That is the Air Comfort Service text line. Coming up next, the NFL draft has come and gone. It is officially over. What did we learn about college football through the lens of the NFL draft? We'll talk about that next year on 101 ESPN.
Alex Ferrario with you to talk about my friends over at Classic Air Care, the company that has been making people comfortable since 1926. And when it comes to the HVAC system in your home, maybe you got a older one, 20 plus years old, and you're just trying to bide your time until it completely hits the fritz. Or maybe you got a newer one and you want to find a way to make sure you get the most length out of that HVAC system. Both scenarios, Classic Air Care is the company for you. I had the old unit when I purchased my first home back in 2016. And we moved out of it in 2021. And it was like a 24-year-old unit that we made it work for the 5 years that we were there. And we did the same in the home that we're living in currently. That's Classic Air Care's technicians that come out. We subscribe to the maintenance agreement where twice a year they come out in the spring and the fall and check the unit, clean the unit. But when issues pop up, you're getting technicians that have been doing this for 30 plus years to come out and give you answers, show you how to maintain that older or newer unit, and make sure you're getting the most out of it. So call them today, schedule online. In April, they got a $79 tune-up that you can capitalize on for the next couple of days. More importantly, just have them come out and take care of that unit and take care of your family before the summertime. It's Classic Air Care, and schedule online at classicaircare.com.
Tanner Hendrickson here. The Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Cardinals fell yesterday to the Mariners 3-2 as they get swept at home by Seattle. They go to Pittsburgh tonight where they'll start a 4-game set with the Pittsburgh Pirates. 5:40 will be first pitch. Dustin May will be on the mound for St. Louis. It'll be a bullpen game for the Pirates. The Sports Center update was brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin heating and air conditioning dealer.
All right, we'll get to the NFL draft here momentarily. Alex, this KHL guy signed a 1-year deal with Nashville. Tell me what this means.
Nashville gets the guy that could potentially be Artemi Panarin, could also be a complete bust. This was this Tkachuk. This is the one that I brought up. I think I brought it up on one of our benchmarks a couple of weeks ago, just because incredible in the KHL. He's 23 years old. He's a free agent. Somebody that was a scout in the KHL comped him to Evgeny Malkin, and it's like, oh, okay, I'll take the center.
Tell me Malkin's in our division now?
He's a young centerman that's big, that can score goals. And so I was like, well, why not take a shot on this one? I don't know what the actual contract details are
It's
in terms
an entry-level deal.
But it's a 1-year deal that he gets, which essentially is just like, hey, go prove it on a cheap deal, and then you get your big contract if you're great. So the Blues, I don't even know if the Blues were interested in this. It was just something that it's like, hey, man, if you want to upgrade your center position, take a shot on a guy like this in the KHL, because Panarin was this, to where nobody drafted him. People were like, we don't know. And then, of course, he came to the Blackhawks and dominated. So I'll be fascinated to see. Nashville makes a ton of sense. They have a good slew of younger Russian players that they've drafted over the last few years. And if you're him, man, you get to go play with Steven Stamkos and potentially Philip Forsberg. And you get to go play for a team and be a number 1, number 2 centerman. So makes sense that he's going there. Probably a pipe dream for the Blues, but sucks that he's in the division if he's really good. And he might also be a bust.
Nashville doesn't have state taxes, right?
I think they
Tennessee.
do.
Tennessee does, don't they?
I can't recall. I should know this.
Let me Google it.
I mean, we don't have a Broadway to compete with.
No state income taxes in Nashville. Yeah, I didn't realize that.
I thought that was the case.
Yeah.
So he's getting a little bit more of his contract as well.
Yeah.
What a smart Russian.
Yeah. And Dan Milstein is his agent, which typically you always look to see how many players that agent has with the team. He has no players that play for the St. Louis Blues. So he's prototypically the agent for a lot of Russian high-rolling players like Nikita Kucherov and all these guys. So it makes sense that it's going to be a team that's familiar with them. So, but still a little bit of a bummer if he turns out to be a really good player.
All right, so that's the NHL latest news there. NFL-wise, the draft is come and gone. Alex, we talked about the first round. That's where the majority of the real discussion takes place.
I checked out after that round.
Day 3 of the NFL draft was about as little intrigue as I can recall. And the reason for that, in large part, is because NIL exists. And so a lot of the guys that were younger that would go on day 3 of the draft that were like these high upside players still that could be available that just didn't have a whole lot of tape from college, those guys are just going back to college now. They're getting paid 7 figures to go play for a team at the Power 5 level. And a lot of the lower level kids that are coming from the group of 5 are just transferring up instead of going and taking their talents to the NFL draft. So I think that's why day 3 lacked a little bit of buzz compared to years past. But I did find this interesting. There were some really good numbers on where the talent is coming from. Now, when you're announced as an NFL draft pick, they announced your most recent team. So if you started your career at James Madison, but ended your career at Alabama, you are announced as an Alabama draft pick, right?
Boy, could you imagine some guys if they named every school? All right, from James Madison, Florida Atlantic, to Clemson, all the way back to Illinois, and now with Alabama. Quarterback.
That draft, you need more than 10 minutes to make the selection for
sure.
draft
There
day.
were some guys like Akeem Mesidor. Hey, this guy has spent the last 7 years of his life in college, but now he's a first-round draft pick. So the reason I bring that up is because that allows for a little bit of context to the numbers that I'm about to give you. These are based upon their most recent schools. 11 of the 32 first-round picks transferred at some point. The conference breakdown for the first-round picks this year, the Big Ten had 10 of them. That was reflected by the performance that we saw last year, most of them coming from Ohio State. The SEC had 7. The ACC had 6, most notably from Miami. Big 12 also had 6. Notre Dame had 2. Mountain West had 1. Last year, the SEC had almost half of the first-round picks with 15. Big 10 had 11. So that's 26 of the 32 possible first-round picks came from those 2 conferences.
That's crazy.
Then the ACC had 2, Big 12 had 2, Mountain West had 1, FCS had 1 as well. So the group of 5, or if you want to call it group of 6, they have produced a total of 3 first-round picks over the last 5 seasons. Alex, this seems pretty clearly a byproduct of NIL as well. Later rounds, those are being impacted by NIL because kids are just staying in school instead of getting drafted late. They make more money doing so. And then the first round is also being impacted by NIL because you're having these kids that are just transferring to the Power 5 level, more specifically, the Big 10 and the SEC. Now, I saw Josh Pate, who does, I think, pretty good work overall, talking about college football, saying, hey, this is a problem. What we're seeing right now is very clearly a consolidation of power, a consolidation of the talent to just the Power 5 level and more specifically to the Big 10 and the SEC. View it very differently. Yes, you're seeing a consolidation of power to the Power 5 level. Again, Big 10, SEC. But it is being spread across those 2 conferences in a way that it never was before, to the point where Indiana can win the national championship game. Yeah. A team like Mizzou, if you're a fan of Missouri, you have hope that your coach can do something of meaning. Illinois could potentially put together a roster that can at least contend for the college football playoff. Yeah. You know, like if you're a fan of Minnesota, if you get the right guy that's able to get some real talent there and you get some boosters that are in on it, your team can win something of meaning. It's not just Alabama or Clemson or Georgia hoarding 5-star talent every year. So I do think there have been some real tangible changes here. I think it's reflected by the NFL draft, but I had a very different takeaway from what those numbers tell us. What was your takeaway from the weekend, Alex?
I don't see how you could label that as a problem. I mean, college football, although people have a problem with it being the wild, wild west,
sure,
it's entertaining nonetheless because you have what you mentioned, all of these teams that look like they legit could win the college football championship, where in years past it was you get 2 opportunities to pick a national college football champion. It's going to be Alabama or Georgia. Everyone else, thanks for playing. So although the NFL draft may be boring after night 1, the first round, because of all of this to where it's not as high-profile players and whatnot, I don't see how any of this is a problem. Yeah, they're kind of shifting towards that Power 5 conference, but, man, if college football's in a good state, and a lot of these kids, by the way, it makes a ton of sense to go back to college to make more money rather than be the 5th or 6th or 7th round pick in the NFL draft, I feel like everything's kind of in a really good state right now in terms of health for entertainment purposes. Now, I can understand from a fan's perspective of being frustrated with college football, frustrated with guys always moving around. I get it. But entertainment-wise, you're in a great spot for college and for the NFL, and the draft just showcases it.
Yeah, I don't think it's a problem for college football. The fact that you end up with all that talent dispersed across the Power 4 conference, really the Power 2, but you end up with it dispersed a little bit better, does make it, it's why the game is more entertaining right now. It's why the numbers are better, right? I mean, I think we all in this room thought Indiana was the team that was going to win the national championship last year. But I don't know that they were like such a dominant force that from the very get-go we knew they were on a collision course with somebody to get there, right? Like we felt that year, to what Alex just made reference to. The decade prior to that, you always knew Alabama was going to get there, and then they were probably going to run into Clemson or they were probably going to run into Georgia. And that was it. And then you'd have the surprise team that got the honor to get their butt kicked in the playoff, like Cincinnati or I think it was Michigan State made it one year. And those were just one-offs. Now we're starting to see that those blue bloods, yes, they still are power programs. Like Georgia's always going to be probably in that college football playoff conversation. Same with Alabama. But we're seeing that schools like Indiana, school like Illinois, school like Missouri can outbuild teams that can at least give themselves a shot to get to the playoff. I don't know about win it, but they can get to the playoff. And that you couldn't have said a couple of years ago because the talent was just so hoarded by those main programs.
Alongside T-Bone and Alex on BK, coming up in about 15 minutes. Yes, we understand the big story that is out there in sports. Brady Tkachuk, he's going to be the talk of the offseason once again.
Oh, goody.
And we will talk about it in about 15 minutes. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for questions and answers. We will answer your questions next here on 101 ESPN. 314-399-9646. That is the Air Comfort Service text line for questions and answers. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and get them in on the Air Comfort Service text line. From the 636. Guys, earlier on TMA, Jackson played Believe It or Not with no mention of BK and Ferrario. What is your response?
So they're stealing content now.
I bleep and hate that guy.
That's good. It's nice of them.
I really like Jackson.
I don't
Not
anymore.
anymore. That's a dirtbag move.
Yeah.
That is a
What is that about?
scoundrel move.
He's on the short list of most likable people I've ever
Not
met.
anymore.
Not anymore.
I can't imagine
You can have-
anybody has ever met Jackson and been like, I don't like that guy.
You can have fun with guys that like to steal people's creative ideas.
I'm
not
highly
gonna.
unlikable. Alex, I think you have some unlikable tendencies as
I
well.
think I'm more likable than unlikable.
I think that's maybe fair.
I think if you were to shift that meter, mine would be more on the likable than the unlikable
I think that's
side.
fair. I think T-Bone's maybe somewhere in the middle.
I don't know.
Jackson is like the top of that meter.
Yeah, does it make
He
you
is
feel...
the top. If you did say like scale of 1 to 10, it's a scale of like a BK to
Yeah,
Jackson.
we get it. You
You
love
want to be
him.
on TMA.
Yeah,
We get it.
we get it.
okay?
You love him.
First, you're talking about starting a Mizzou podcast with Tim. Now you're like kissing up to Jackson, which is insane.
I don't respect people that steal content. That's ridiculous.
From the 636, City SC dominates with more shots, possession, and expected goals. How did they find a way to lose on Saturday? Was that just a BKO? Probably.
No, they've been bad all year.
Yeah.
I don't just blame BK.
Have they ever been like a high-scoring team this season?
I don't think so.
So they can have the expected numbers all the way. This is what people
They
yelled at
stink.
me when I said the Blues were like, oh, well, they're expected to score more goals. It doesn't matter. They can't score.
I had a blast going to the game on Saturday.
It's a
was
great
really fun.
atmosphere still, even though they're a bad team.
It was cool to see
Weather for it, too.
Leuven's return was really cool. That was one of the more emotionally charged moments that I can recall at a St. Louis sporting event in a while. That was really cool, and every St. Louis City fan that was in attendance did awesome, and giving him the ovation that he deserved. So it was really cool to be there. All right, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for questions and answers. Alex, this one's for you. Big question: was the overtime goal last night between the Ducks and the Oilers an actual goal?
I thought it was a goal. Now, it's hard to have conclusive evidence from what we saw on the television because his skate was covering the puck in the line, and you have to see white. But let's also remember that the officials in the headquarters have a lot different camera angles than what we do on the television side of things. So, but even that the skate was covering it, you can definitively see there's a gap from where that red line is to where the puck is. Just, do some charting in terms of the percentage of puck that's over that red line. You can tell that there's white there. So, yeah, I thought it was a goal, and I thought it was pretty obvious.
I think it should not have been a goal. I do not think that you can definitively say that it was in.
Well, didn't they call it on the ice as a goal?
Called it no goal, and they reviewed it.
No, they called it a goal.
I thought
I thought the guy behind waved it off.
Well, he
they
did,
did
they
not.
changed it to
There
goal.
was no initial call. Then they discuss it. They review it a goal, and then it goes to actual video review, and they say, "Yep, there was a good goal." I don't think it should have been ruled a goal. I don't think that there is a definitive angle where you can view it and say, like, that was definitely all the way across the red line. Now, if the goal is just simply it has to cross the red line in any way, yeah, that was in. I don't know if it went all the way across in this scenario, though. So I would not have called it a goal.
Yeah. Stills everything the pictures that I saw, it's like you could tell that's over the line. It's just, you're right. From the angles we had, there was no conclusive evidence that there's a clear gap between the red line and the puck. But again, they have a lot different angles in terms of what the NHL is calling back to than what we get on the television side of things.
From the 636, would you guys rather the Cardinals call up Baez or Crooks, given the glaring holes that they have at those respective positions? I would not call up Baez.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
probably wouldn't call up Crooks either. If I know this isn't one of the answers that I was given here, but if you're just saying like, hey, you can call up somebody, who are you calling up? I'd probably call up Blaze Jordan. That would be my call up because I don't think he's probably a long-term starter for this team. I just don't know where the position is. I guess you could potentially see him getting some opportunities at third, but I think he is the guy to me that I would at least give an opportunity to, because I think there's some chances at DH. I don't think there's a whole lot of playing time available at catcher, and I don't think I would call up Baez knowing that a month from now I'm going to send him right back down, most likely.
Yeah, I'm not calling up any of Baez or Crooks. Anybody that I think has a future on my team when you're out of the rebuild, they're not getting called up yet. there's no point to it. Blaze Jordan, absolutely. I think he's going to have one distinguished role if he's ever going to be a Major League Baseball player, and it's a DH, backup first baseman. So, yeah, bring him up if he's crushing the baseball. But no, Baez, Crooks, I'm not even talking about them unless there's an injury, until we get to July.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I think it would probably be Blaze Jordan for me. He could take the Pozo or Sajasi role right now. Be the guy that comes off the bench when you want to pinch hit for Scott late in the game, which they've been doing. You see if he can learn to be a bench player at the Major League level. The thing that they didn't want to do at the end of the Mo era, which was everybody when they're up here has to be a starter. That's not the case. Some guys are bench players in their careers. See if Blaze Jordan can be that for you.
From the 618, just tuning in, so this isn't a response to anything that's been said so far, but when you guys are doing show planning, do you actually defend takes that you believe in, or are some of these just defending for the sake of radio? Hope that doesn't sound overly negative.
So basically, do we argue off air as much as we do on air?
No, I think they're basically saying, like, do you guys actually believe the things you say?
Oh, we fake like first take.
It's very rare that I'll say something on the air that I don't believe. There are times where, like, T-Bone and Alex both have the same point of view, and for the sake of discussion, I need to present the alternative view. And in those scenarios, I try to at least mention, like, hey, I'm just, for devil's advocate's sake here, what about this? But generally speaking, yeah, our show is kind of founded upon the idea that we are talking about things that we care about, and we are giving you the viewpoints that we actually have. Now, I don't know if that makes it better or worse, because sometimes maybe you think that what we're saying is completely asinine and stupid, and the only way that it would make sense is if we don't believe the things that we're saying. But yeah, for what we talk about, generally speaking, we believe it.
Yeah, it's kind of the same where I'm at. Like, there's times that just for the sake of conversation, you want to look at the other side of it, which I try and do in every conversation we have, but more times than not, I plant my flag in the take that I have, and I stick to it because I believe it.
I would say the only time that I might take the other side, just so we can have a conversation about it, is if it's one of those topics where I'm kind of 50-50 to begin with anyway,
Sure.
to where I can understand either side, and then maybe Alex takes one side or you both take one side, and then I at least am kind of 50-50 on it, and then I have enough to kind of stand my ground and make an argument for that other side, whatever it might be.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line from the 636. BK always thinks he's right. Of course he believes it. Boom, roasted. Boom, roasted.
Mic drop.
Got him.
Got a break. They got him.
Got him.
Can I just respond to this real quick?
No.
Because obviously this guy was kidding. But
No, this guy wins.
of course I think I'm right. Like, of course I do. If I didn't, what am I doing on the radio? I see this sometimes, and it always makes me laugh because it's like, if you don't think that your viewpoint is correct, then why would you have that viewpoint? Right? Like, if I think that Jordan Walker is going to be a superstar, shouldn't I say that? And if I don't, I wouldn't be saying it. So I don't know, man. It's always been something that I don't totally understand. Like, yes, I do believe the things that I say. And yes, I, of course, think that I'm right. There are a lot of the times when I am not correct. I'm proven definitively wrong, and we acknowledge as much. But yeah, of course you're going to believe the things that you say.
This is an opinionated career, and if I don't have an opinion on something and don't believe it or have information to back it up, I wouldn't be on the radio. Like, it's not entertaining to just hear people spew nonsense. Like, you may think what we're saying is nonsense, but
Exactly.
most of the time what we're discussing is information that we have been given, and then we can base our opinions around it. Whether you like it or not, it's where we're coming from. If we just went on here and just started throwing out nonsense and didn't believe anything, I don't really think we'd have segments to discuss.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK. Coming up in about 15 minutes, we'll play a game of in or out. You guys give us a scenario. We will tell you if we are in or out here on BK and Ferrario. But next, yeah, here we go again.
Welcome back.
It's Brady Tkachuk season, boys.
Oh, baby.
Is this time actually going to be different, though? We'll talk about it next year on 101 ESPN. With Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK, so we're back to the same place that we've been for years. One of these days, maybe a Tkachuk is going to play for the St. Louis Blues. I guess technically one has. Not one of the kids.
Well, they're
yet.
not brothers, but yeah, the dad did.
So Brady Tkachuk is now in the conversation as potentially being available this offseason, Alex, because the Senators had a really, really terrible postseason.
It was bad.
They're done, and he didn't score in the playoffs.
He had more penalty minutes than shots on goals.
Ouch.
Shot on goal.
Only 2 Senators scored in the series.
Can you name them, T-Bone?
Oh, it was in BK's notes. I know it wasn't Tkachuk.
That's a good process of elimination.
Stützle, apparently the greatest hockey player in
he
the
didn't
world,
score.
he had 1 point.
Yeah.
At least he got a point.
I don't remember who it was that scored. I think it was 2 guys that I'd never heard of.
Batherson and Cousins
Yeah,
were
never
the
heard
2
of them.
guys that scored a goal in this series. And now you look at the Senators. This was supposed to be a year where they at least got to the second round of the playoffs. Things set up for them to potentially go on some kind of a run. They didn't. There's been a lot of controversy surrounding Brady Tkachuk this year. And so Matt Larkin earlier today over on the Daily Faceoff wrote a column with the following title. It's time for the Senators to have the Brady Tkachuk trade conversation. He then goes on to say, hey, listen, there's no reason to stretch this thing out. This is the time where you could get the best return for your investment in Brady Tkachuk. Go ahead and make the move. He then said you could explore a trade sending him to his hometown team, the St. Louis Blues. He added you could try to bring Ontario-born Robert Thomas to Canada's capital.
Okay, well, the team's not. The trade's not happening then.
Alex, let's start here. Do you think something's actually going to happen this time around? Because we've been talking about Brady Tkachuk's possible availability for like 3 years. Is this the time where it's actually different?
I think he will be traded. I just don't think it's going to be this offseason. I disagree with Steve's premise of his article saying now's the time to have the conversation. I agree with the sentiment of you could probably get the best return now, but they can't even approach him with a contract extension until after next season. And I have to imagine when you're having the conversation, if you're the Ottawa Senators, the conversation has to start, does Brady want to be here? And you don't even know the answer to that yet. And I was looking at it because last season was their first taste of the playoffs. This year, they got bounced once again in the first round and actually took a step backwards because at least they got to game 6 last year. But they went through 7 straight years of not qualifying for the playoffs. If I'm the Ottawa Senators, that's just a dumb decision. I got to hope that the battle scars of my team for the last 2 seasons can eventually lead me to potentially getting a playoff series win next year. So I can't even have the conversation with Brady yet if he wants to be here. So I'm not just going to trade the guy because I assume he doesn't want to be here. I think that conversation takes place after next offseason or at the deadline next year if things aren't going the direction of Ottawa and they need to make a change. But yes, I do believe that Brady and the Ottawa Senators are not going to be paired together once he is available to hit free agency. So it makes sense that they have to start talking about it. I just don't know if you start talking about it now.
That's kind of where I am. I don't know that the Senators make that move now because if you're Ottawa, one, you don't know that Brady actually wants out just yet. And if you don't know that, what you have to do is you have to try and build the best team around him. And then when that time comes for when he is eligible for a contract extension, you hope that you built a really good team around him. It led to playoff success, and then Brady ends up saying, hey, you know what? I do want to stay here because I see that we're going to have a winning window. So I don't see a scenario where Ottawa tries to move him. Now, how they get better, I don't know. That feels like a tougher conversation. But even if Brady came to them this offseason and said, hey, you know what? I'm not going to sign. If I'm Ottawa, I'm still saying, you know what? We still got another year of this. Let's try and run this back and see if we can do something.
I think they should probably make the move.
Now?
Mm-hmm. He's 26 years old. He's going to be 27 next year. I think this is when you get the most return on your investment. And if you think he's not coming back, I think it's time to start looking at the next iteration of what your team's going to be. So if I was them, I'd probably go ahead and make the move. And I think this is the guy that you can move, and you can get some significant return for him. Now, I don't think that return is going to include Robert Thomas.
No, you're not making the trade for Brady Tkachuk if you're trading away Robert Thomas.
Exactly.
Your team gets worse.
If I'm the St. Louis Blues, I'm in Alexander Steen's shoes, I make this trade because I feel like I'm a little closer. I feel like I can compete next year, even if not contend for a Stanley Cup championship. Tkachuk is one of those guys, along with Holloway and Snuggerud and Thomas. Those are the guys that I'm starting to build around now. That's the core of my top 6. Now, where this does get interesting, though, is what would the Ottawa Senators want in return? Because they would probably ask you to start for Robert Thomas. That's the natural starting point. And then the Blues would say no, and then you get into the actual conversation.
Yeah, I mean, they would ask for Thomas, Holloway, and Snuggerud, and I think all 3 of those should be permanent no's if I'm the Blues. They'd probably ask for Joel Hofer. That's another permanent no if I'm the Blues, and just because we're having the conversation, Broberg and Jiricek would be in that conversation for me as well.
If you were the Ottawa Senators, would you have interest in Jordan Kyrou?
He would not be the primary piece of what I'm acquiring, but yes, I would have interest in it because to me, it's a change of scenery guy. It's a player that provides speed. Here's the problem as to why it's not the guy that gets this deal done if I'm Ottawa. Ottawa just saw what it took to win in the playoffs. You've got to be tough. If you're not coming with
to score goals.
Well, that's very true.
And they only had 2 guys that did that.
But you will get pushed around. The areas you score the goals, Batherson and Cousins, where they scored, rebound chances in front of the net. You got to have guys that are willing to play that way. And when I look at their roster, let's say you pluck Brady Tkachuk off of that roster. Who's getting to the front of the net and scoring you goals? Now, I know everybody's snarky's comment can be, well, Brady didn't do it. Sure, but he did it last season for them. He scored 4 goals or 3 goals in the postseason, if I'm not mistaken, last year for Ottawa in 6 games. He can do it. So I think Kyrou would be the starting point. If I'm Ottawa, I want Jake Neighbors. I need to replace the grit that Brady Tkachuk provides with a guy that can also bring that to my lineup. Now, he's not to what Brady Tkachuk is now. I don't know if he'll ever get to that level, but I need a guy that provides that type of presence on my team. And again, that's just the starting point of what this deal could eventually become.
Can I give you some numbers real quick? This is over the last 2 seasons. I'm going to compare 2 players.
I really worry about where this is going. All right, I'm out on Brady. I know where this team's going.
Brady. And I know what you're going to do because you're going to try and sway me on the, why not just keep Jordan Kyrou? And I will answer your question before you even present it to me.
That's what this game is?
Because I've seen this response on Twitter. You got a guy that scored 37 goals and put up 80 points. Why would I go trade for Brady Tkachuk? Because Brady plays with a style that wins in the playoffs, I believe. And again, I can hear your snarky response of, he didn't get it done for Ottawa.
He didn't win this time.
Sure.
He spent more time in the box, as you said, than he had shots.
Yep. He absolutely did.
It's kind of a negative in the playoffs.
I watched the playoffs.
Yeah.
That sounded so Tony the way that I just said.
Yeah,
I felt like BK there for a minute.
You watched the playoffs where they got swept, okay?
When you watch postseason play, Brady's style is what draws teams in. Now, this was a bad year, but again, last season, I thought he was one of their best players, and they couldn't get the job done. To make the playoffs this year, Brady Tkachuk came out of that Olympic break and went on a tear. I think there's more going on with Brady as to why the play didn't perform well. So you can present to me 2 guys with the points of this is Jordan Kyrou and this is Brady Tkachuk. Kyrou puts up more points. That's fine. I know what style Brady plays with, and I think that draws teams into the fight.
So Brady Tkachuk over the last 2 seasons has 51 goals. Jordan Kyrou has 54. Brady Tkachuk over the last 2 seasons has 63 assists. Jordan Kyrou has 62. That means that Brady Tkachuk has 114 points over the last 2 years. Jordan Kyrou has 116. In terms of the plus-minus, Brady Tkachuk is at +4. Jordan Kyrou is at a +18. Penalty minutes. I know some people view this as a positive. Brady Tkachuk over the last 2 seasons has taken 194 penalty minutes.
Holy crap.
Jordan Kyrou has taken, over the last 2 seasons, 28 penalty minutes.
You can look at that as a positive or a negative.
I would say the same thing is true for Tkachuk with 194 penalty minutes. That's a lot, man. That's a lot of penalties that he's taken. Now, some of that is because he's aggressive. He plays with physicality. He's going to get in fights. Like all of that, there is value in some of that stuff. I'm not denying that at all. But some of those penalties are unnecessary. I don't have to watch every game to know, like, hey, man, if you're taking 125 to 150 penalty minutes in a year, maybe we can tamp that down just a little bit. Maybe a few fewer penalty minutes would be a positive. And certainly once you get into the playoffs, him taking 13 penalty minutes over the course of 4 games, not all of those were good for his team, right? I'm not saying this to suggest that the Blues should not trade for Brady Tkachuk. I am saying if he has the exact same production for the Blues that he had with the Senators, Blues fans would be pretty pissed quickly if that's the kind of production they're getting out of him. He can't be a 20 to 25 goal scorer here and get away with that. And people say, yeah, this is great. I love the fact that they've got this physicality. Well, sure, but that's just Jake Neighbors' production. And you're paying more than $8 million a year for it. And he's supposed to be the face of your franchise the moment that you trade for him, right? Like he's the next captain, all of these different things that you would place upon him. The expectations for the Blues would be much higher than they have been over the last 2 seasons, what his actual production has been for the Ottawa Senators. He's got to revert back to the player that he was in 2023 when he scored 37 goals, had 74 points, and was a really good player for the Ottawa Senators. He's got to be more of that. If you don't get that version of him, though, it will be a disaster. It will be a disappointment relative to expectations. And this is where I get to, I would trade Kyrou Neighbors in a first for this guy.
Yeah.
Because he has that in there. I would trade this year's first because whatever. Like,
I guess that's true. It's an 11th overall pick. I don't really care.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, that's fair.
You don't trade the first pick, but if it's the 11th overall pick, that's an overpay, sure. But that's the kind of thing you're going to have to do to get this level of a talent. Mm-hmm. And so am I overpaying for it? Yeah. Is that going to raise the expectations for him? Sure. But Brady Tkachuk is the kind of player that this team has been lacking. He has the potential to be a superstar level talent in the NHL. I've seen him on Team USA with other superstars, and that's the guy that a lot of them looked to. There is a different caliber of player that in those moments, I believe, can take their game to another level. So I gave you all the negatives. Those things exist there. But for me, yeah, he's too overwhelmingly great of a player to pass up on this kind of an opportunity. I said the exact same thing about his brother when he was available, and they let that one go. You're not going to get another chance. Mm-hmm. At some point, these guys will be past their prime, and you'll have given up the opportunity to go get really unique talents that are from this city, and that's the only reason you're even in the conversation for these guys to begin with. So I would do what it takes to get Brady Tkachuk if he's actually available.
Let me ask you a question that I know the answer to already. So if you give the wrong answer, I can call you out. Do you think Tim Stützle is a number 1 center in the National Hockey League?
You know how I feel about him, no.
That's part of the reason, and I'm not taking any of the blame away from Brady Tkachuk, but that's part of the reason why I look at Brady's season and be like, what happened here? I don't think he's playing on a team that gets the best out of him. Now, it's on him to draw the best out of him as possible, but like I just look at the scenario of I'm putting him on a line with Robert Thomas. I absolutely believe Brady Tkachuk gets more back to the 37 goals, 74 points type of player he was a couple of years ago. And then I always reference the biggest moments. You referenced it as well. This season, understandably, he was bad. Last year, in 6 playoff games, scored 4 goals and had 7 points, on top of having 6 penalty minutes. In the Olympics this year, 3 goals in 6 games was a +7. In 4 Nations last year, 3 goals in 4 games was a +3. And the biggest moments, Brady Tkachuk, just like his brother Matthew, draws the team into the fight. This year, to me, is an anomaly. Just like we're saying about Jordan Kyrou, this might be an anomaly season. I know the style that Brady plays when he's at his best, and that's a winning style. I've seen the style Jordan Kyrou plays when he's at his best. I don't think that's what wins in the playoffs. So that's why I would make the trade for Brady. But again, I will also be very honest with myself. And as much as I want to see Brady Tkachuk play for this team, I'm not making dumb trades that hurt my future for Brady Tkachuk. I'm not trading Holloway or Snuggerud. And I've seen a ton of people say, just trade Joel Hofer because they won goaltending. I'm not doing that. That's dumb. I'm making trades that don't benefit me long term. If you want to dangle any of these younger players in front of the Ottawa Senators, other than Adam Jiricek, because I think you need defensemen, and this guy looks like he's going to be a top 4 player. If you want to talk Carbonneau, if you want to talk Stenberg, if you want to talk Neighbors, hell, if you want to talk Dvorsky, let's have the conversation. But it stops at Thomas, Holloway, and Snuggerud because that doesn't benefit my team to trade for Brady Tkachuk.
So if they told you the only way you're getting this done is if it's for Neighbors and Kyrou and your first-round pick, would you do
Done
it?
deal. right now. And I love Jake Neighbors. We all can acknowledge that right now. That's a done deal because I hope Jake Neighbors becomes what Brady Tkachuk has been over the last 5 years of his career. And he's also 26 years old. Now, the hard part with all this... Go ahead,
I would
T-Bone.
do it. I wonder, though, that if they're going to want something like Jiricek, though. And if they do that, like, I still would be willing to do it because, like you just said, not many kind of players like Tkachuk come available. And not only is it not many players like Tkachuk come available, not many players like Tkachuk can come available that would want to come to St. Louis. And that's why, like, if they said it's Cairo Neighbors and let's say Jiricek in place of that first-round pick, I'd still say done deal, and I'll figure out defense.
I've got one for you. What if it's Parayko?
Fine. Yeah.
I think that makes a ton of sense because he doesn't fit your timeline.
Yeah. And I don't think they're going to want defensemen. Like, they're good in their defenseman front. They've got their top two guys in Sanderson and Shabbat who are young. They've got a Yakimchuk who played really well for them in the postseason this year. I don't think that's the area they're addressing. They need goaltending, and they need more offense.
Would you trade Benner?
Yeah. Again, my non-negotiables, Holloway, Thomas, Snuggerud, Broberg, Jiricek, Hofer. Anybody else, let's have the conversation. Because I don't think it hurts you in the long term. If we're talking about Neighbors, yes, it stings to trade Jake Neighbors. But we've all acknowledged that, like, in a playoff series, when you're at your best trying to win a Stanley Cup, he's probably on your third line. Brady Tkachuk immediately comes to this team and is playing on my top line.
I think he's probably on my second line, but I get where you're coming from.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Holloway could move to my second line, and I don't say that to demean Holloway. It's just I think Holloway brings the best out of everyone around him, so I could put him on a second line and have Brady play with Robert Thomas because you just need that presence. But however you want to formulate the lines, there's not a player on the roster other than the ones that I've mentioned that I won't move for Brady Tkachuk. Because this guy, in my opinion, if you put him on a team like what Matthew is with the Florida Panthers, and Matthew is a better player than Brady, I believe Brady can be a consistent 35 to 40 goal scorer because he's that power forward threat.
Brady is the kind of piece that you've been lacking.
Yeah. Fixes your power play as well, which is a very important factor into all of this.
He is a blue chip talent. He plays with the physicality that they're missing on their roster right now. He is the toughness that this team has lacked. And T-Bone, I know you and I are kind of on the same page of this. Like, don't overestimate the importance of that. But also, if you can get that as a side benefit of a player that has 30 to 40 goal upside, all right, yeah, that's great. I'm all in on that. He's got all of these things wrapped into one player. And you could have a highly motivated player who's been shipped out of town by Ottawa because they couldn't get it done there. He's coming back to his hometown. Like, there's a lot of internal motivation pieces to this that I think could be beneficial to him. And he's good buddies with Robert Thomas. So, Alex, to your point on the, like, you put him up on there on that top line, those guys could immediately have a nice chemistry together. Mm-hmm. And even if they don't, if it doesn't work out on the ice, they're just good buddies off of the ice.
You got a line that plays well.
Yeah, you've got a line that already works. And off the ice, maybe that helps Robert Thomas stay in a good mental space where he knows, hey, when I'm off the ice, at least this dude's going to be able to take care of things where he didn't always necessarily have that trust of his team in the past. So, yeah, this is the kind of move that, to me, if he's actually available, and I don't know if he will be or not, but if he is, I think you do what is necessary to go ahead and make that deal.
Real quick, because I know we're tight on time, I see a lot of people saying, yeah, but he doesn't make you a contender right away. No, he doesn't, but he gets you closer to it. Mm-hmm. You still have holes that need to be filled. You're still going to look for that second-line center if Dvorsky's a part of it.
Once you find that blue-chip talent that BK said, this is what I keep saying about the Cardinals, too, with what their build's going. Once you find that blue-chip talent, everything else just starts to fall in place a lot easier.
Look at the Minnesota Wild's best players right now. It's Boldy, it's Kaprizov, it's Joel Eriksson Ek, who's performed well in the playoffs for them, and they got the Hughes and Faber side of it. But just the forward perspective. If you're telling me that my four pieces that I'm building around are Holloway, Thomas, Snuggerud, and Brady Tkachuk, I am so much closer to being a contender towards the top teams in the West than I am closer to being where I was this past year.
It's the kind of move you do.
Especially if you're Alex Steen. It's the one you make. It's that statement move that you look at and you say, I'm ready to take over and I'm here to make the play.
Hey, be safe out there, guys. It sounds like it's getting pretty rough in some areas. A text line just mentioned pretty bad weather over by the airport. I saw somebody on the YouTube chat say already out in St. Charles there's some hail. So be super safe out there. If you're driving around, we'll try to keep you updated with whatever we can. But if you need to listen to some news or whatever, like just make sure you're in a safe spot. It sounds like it could get pretty rough out there, especially going into later this afternoon. Alex, I know for both of us, our kiddos are out early today. They've got early departures from a lot of the schools across the area. So be gracious with people around you. Everybody's trying to get home safe. And if you can, get home, watch us on YouTube, throw us up there, youtube.com/101 ESPN STL. We'll try to take your mind off of some of the stuff. It sounds like some pretty severe weather could be coming St. Louis's way in the not too distant future. All right, coming up in about 15 minutes, we'll talk a little bit about Ollie Marmol's handling over the weekend of the pitching staff. I know some had some real criticisms of the way that he went about things. We'll get into that in about 15 minutes. In or out next here on 101 ESPN. Some bad weather heading our way, so we're going to go down and take shelter. Recommend you guys do the same if you're in an area where there is any kind of severe weather right now. Be safe out there. We will be back as soon as we can. We will have some, I think, ESPN radio playing for you guys here in just a little bit, but be safe. We will talk to you guys very soon here on BK and Ferrario.
Then to also have a personal life alongside that must be crazy. And so it was really fun having the sort of the extremities of being a footballer and then also having, but what happens when, it's like, you know, I mean, far be it from me to, you know, make the comparison, but in the way that you would see Sopranos, you see Tony Soprano, he's a mob boss, but then he's also in therapy.
Yes.
The sort of domestic with the vocational, you know, you're extrapolating something of that in the madness of being on a football pitch and then also trying to negotiate a personal relationship where you might actually be getting things wrong and you have to apologize and take responsibility. That drama, that tension between those two spaces is really fun to do.
And you're a fan of which team and which side in real life?
AFC Wimbledon.
AFC Wimbledon, which is the Wimbledon version of AFC Richmond, would you say? Is that
They don't quite
comparison?
have the same funding as AFC Richmond,
Okay.
unfortunately.
Well, at
but-
the very beginning, where we find AFC Richmond, at the very beginning of Ted Lasso.
So Wimbledon FC were a Division 1 Premier League side.
Yes.
Way back when. This is sort of, you know, they went into administration around 2000, 2002, I think it was.
Right.
And then they got bought by a franchise. We don't really have the franchise system in the UK.
Okay.
The local community, Wimbledon community, said, we're not going to support this new team. They who shall not be named. You can Google it if you want, guys.
Okay.
And so they created their own team, AFC Wimbledon. So it's a Phoenix club. Amazingly, the Wimbledon FC emblem was always a phoenix, and now AFC Wimbledon, this Phoenix club, also has the same same emblem. And they have worked their way up from the 8th tier of English football, and we've just maintained staying in League One, which is the 3rd tier, after 24 years.
Okay, and this is for those who may not be familiar, the same Wimbledon as the tennis club, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
That's
yes.
the part of London you hail from?
That's not where I hail from,
Okay.
but I'm...
so how'd you find AFC Wimbledon?
Just loved the story of it, really. And I was more of a rugby player when I was younger.
Okay.
I preferred rugby. And so I then sort of came to football a little bit late. I'm a born-again football supporter, I suppose. I liked it a bit. And I was just sort of looking for a club. My best mate is an Arsenal supporter, so I sort of by proxy have a Premier League side when.
So when Jamie Tart goes to Man City,
Yeah.
was that an issue? Because isn't Arsenal and Man City locked in?
They are now, I suppose so,
At
yeah.
present, right now, we just named one of the two, one would think, Premier League champions.
Do you think?
You tell me.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like it feels that way. The tide has turned that way very much. But no, I mean, listen, we worked with Pep Guardiola
For
Ted
Lasso.
Yeah, and he came on and it was incredible. A lot of the extras who were in the stadium at the Etihad, Man City Stadium, were Man City fans. And when Pep walked into the stadium, everyone rose to their feet and applauded him. It was quite an amazing sort of messianic moment. And he was very generous with his time. He was just a real. He has this thing with players where when he's very physical with them, he's very emotive, and we had a moment. Jamie and him have a moment. And he whispers something in his ear. And Pep has this thing where he slaps players, like really slaps them on the chest as a sort of, I think, a sort of sign of sort of paternal love or whatever it is. And he slapped me on the chest. And it was the greatest thing.
Are you serious? That's amazing.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Did he ever coach you up specifically? Like to
Absolutely not. No, he wouldn't have wasted his time with that. But, but he just had a moment, and he was, he was basically said to Jason Sudeikis, who was sort of, working with him on what to do.
Yeah.
Pep was just like, just tell me what to say, man. I'll do whatever you want. And he was great.
Oh, man. Did you, improve as a footballer? Did you do, how did you get better? I mean, because I didn't look at you. I'm like, yeah, I don't believe this guy.
Oh, that's good.
No, you were fearful of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I didn't think that at all.
We did do some training. I'd see it as more as choreography.
Sure.
I thought of it more as choreography. But the funny thing with it is that unlike a dance where the variables are your feet and space and time and your partner you're dancing with a football, of course, it has, the football is spinning and, it's the grass is bobbling over the grass. There are so many variables with it. It makes it so hard. So really, we just tried to focus on, us moving to certain areas of the pitch and hoping that the ball followed us.
Right.
But the problem was then, I think that they cut it together so well, so they made us look like we were really good. So that I would then go and play a five-a-side with my mates, and we would get absolutely hammered, and someone would come up to me afterwards and be like, aren't you Jamie Tarr? And I'm there dripping in sweat, having just lost 6-0, and I'm like, shut up. Don't look at me.
What's your favorite scene that you were involved in Ted Lasso?
Ted. I think it's probably the bicycle scene with Brett. I mean, I just loved that so much because it was also, it would have been the most amazing week in Amsterdam, and it was at the culmination of Jamie's storyline, and Brett and I had this sort of quasi-love affair during the filming of the show, and it was just a really special time. And also, it had just been a really great episode to film that. And there were loads. There was any time that Jason had a speech, like a TED speech, was a really special time. And
well, the scene where the Believe sign rips,
right,
and the whole side team squad thinks we're done, we're toast, and that speech that comes right after that, spectacular.
Yeah, and there's a lot of reverence, when he was doing those speeches, and you all want to make sure you get it right. We've all got our small parts in that, and there's a wonderful kind of, I don't know, sort of allegory of us wanting just to serve the piece so that this moment can have space to breathe, and that Jason has the platform to be able to do this, that Ted can say these things, because we know what it means to us, we know what it would mean to these players, and we know what it means to the audience. So we wanted to really, you feel it, you really feel, and certainly by season 3, when we were aware of the sort of impact or I don't know, the sort of ripples it had in the world a little bit. Not that you really try and let that in, but you just sort of, you know that the stakes are somewhat higher, that it means something to people, and you want to make sure you get it right. So, there were cool moments, yeah.
Well, pardon me for asking, but is Rooster preventing you from the new season of Ted Lasso?
No. That's just they are doing a new. It's the backroom staff is very similar, but there's a new team on TED.
Okay.
And my wife is actually directing some of the new season, and so I have a sort of. I'm riding shotgun on her experience of it because I just want to stay near to it. But it's been an amazing thing. It changed my life, the show. And now, she's got her own experience with it. It's just a really special thing to feel.
That's so cool,
involved
man.
with
that must be really great for you.
It is great. And also I get to see the show, and the show's still brilliant. And the new cast are so good. So good. And I think that, it's going to be an amazing thing in that it's going to have so many of those same hallmarks that people love of the show, but it's just got new, fresh blood, and they're all brilliant. It's going to be great.
So no Jamie Tartt cameos? No nothing? I don't know. Okay, I don't want to get into it. I shouldn't. Did I just tread on? I need to tread more lightly. Talk about Rooster, Rich. All right. Is there any similarities between Steve Carell and Sudeikis? You got anything on that front? Just from your own. Obviously, they're two brilliant, comic actors and serious actors all in the same body, right? So
yes, those are two. I'm going to steal those.
Okay,
say those.
All right,
are my answers,
please.
They both have this really lovely quality where they are two people who have made a career out of being really funny, and that people look to them to be funny. But when you're on set with them, they are the first people to laugh at other people's jokes. And I think that what I mean by that is they have the human.
Tanner Hendrickson here. The Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Cardinals fell to the Mariners yesterday 3-2 as they get swept by Seattle. They'll be back in action tonight as they start a 4-game set at the Pittsburgh Pirates. 5:40 will be first pitch. Dustin May will get the start for St. Louis. It will be a bullpen game for the Pittsburgh Pirates. The Sports Center update is brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin heating and air conditioning dealer.
Alongside Alex and T1, I'm BK. So we have just a couple of minutes here, but we got to talk a little bit about Ollie Marmol's handling of the pitching over the weekend.
Because you're probably upset about it and you think he's ruined this Cardinals team and you want to let people know.
Nope. But a lot of people are very mad about the way that he handled the game, especially on Saturday. So we'll get into that here in just a minute. Everything appears to be all clear here in Creve Coeur. That may not be the case for you, though. So we will be trying to take your mind off of everything that's going on outside. But if you are in an area that appears to be in a severe weather situation, I just always recommend going over to K-Movie. Check them out. Steve Templeton will have you covered.
Oh, yeah, he will.
He's got that for you.
Sleeves
we'll
are still down.
Marmol here.
Sleeves are still down. Tie is still on. So right now, feeling a little bit better about ourselves.
So we seem to be doing okay. We went down, took shelter for a few minutes. So that is why, if you were listening to us a little bit ago, you heard ESPN radio. That is why that was taking place. Okay. So, Alex, I would say the game that is getting the most criticism is probably Saturday. Because Friday night got a pretty good start out of Andre Palante. Yesterday got a pretty good start, all things considered, out of the starter as well, Michael McGreevy. And then there's Saturday, where Matthew Liberatore was only able to get through 3 1/3. He gave up 5 earned runs in those 3 1/3 innings. Your offense was very good. He gave up 8 hits and a walk and just very clearly didn't have it. He didn't have his best stuff. He was completely out of whack. And if we're being honest, that's kind of been the case for him so far this season. He has not looked like the pitcher that a lot of us were anticipating going into the season. So Ollie got aggressive. He went to Gordon Graceffo to get out of that inning. And then he goes to Brule, Soriano, Stanek, Romero, and eventually Riley O'Brien. And it looked like it was going to work, Alex. They didn't have their best stuff. The bullpen also didn't play particularly well on Saturday. Am I boring you?
Yeah, a little bit.
But Riley O'Brien was the real culprit, allowing 4 hits and a walk in 2 earned runs, and ultimately that's what allows the game to get away from you. Alex, a lot of people are critical because, hey, you're going into a 17-game stretch in 17 days, and you pull your starter after 3 1/3, 64 pitches. He had more. You got to let him eat it there. Did you feel that way?
No, not in that scenario, not with Matthew Liberatore. If that would have been Dustin May, I'd be singing the same tune as Cardinals fans because that's a veteran who's been there before, even though I know he's younger. I agree with what Ollie said. Like, you're not going to leave the kid up there just to continue to get smashed and kill his confidence. And I know nobody wants to hear that, but you're managing people just as much as you're managing that game. It's a long season, and let's say you kept him in there because you said, you know what, man, we need to get you to 90-plus pitches because we can't handle this for 17 straight games. Go out there, and let's say he gives up 11 runs in 5 innings and throws 90 pitches. Not only is he gassed, but whatever confidence he had, gone, and good luck getting it back. So I think that was the smart move in his eyes. The game's like, look, it's not out of it yet. Our offense can keep us alive, but let's let Matthew Liberatore get away from before this thing gets really ugly. I would have done the exact same thing. So I had no problems with that at all with Matthew Liberatore.
I had no problems with it. Now, it had nothing to do with it. He's a quote-unquote kid out there because I think sometimes as a starter, he would have to go out there and eat that one. But the reason I had no issue with it was because who the next day starter was. You know, if I said today, who's the pitcher you feel most confident in that if your bullpen's arms depend on it, which they did going into yesterday's game, who's the guy you feel confident in giving you 6 innings? I think all three of us would agree it's probably Michael McGreevy.
100%.
And because of that, I think it was probably the smart decision to try and get aggressive and see if you could salvage that game with Matthew Liberatore not having his best stuff. Your offense was starting to hit Brian Wu, so you've got to give yourself the best chance. I had no problem with it. Now, had it been Palante was starting the next day, and it was kind of almost the reverse order, you flip it, and Palante was going to start the next day, yeah, Libby probably has to stay out there and eat that outing because I would have no faith in Palante being able to give me 6 innings and save my bullpen. Or you just have to know going into it, okay, we're going to have to make bullpen moves going into the next game. So I had no issues with it. And I get it. Some people were upset about O'Brien having to throw like 40-plus pitches. I think that was O'Brien just wasn't effective. And at that point, you only had 2 more bullpen arms to go. So you almost had to kind of ride him out. And you trust him because he's been your best bullpen arm. I don't think any of this pitching issues that occurred this weekend were anything on Ali Marmol. I think he played everything smart from a pitching standpoint.
You're up 7-5 at the time that they made the change. You're trying to keep the game where it's at. You get aggressive. You say, all right, we're pretty good here. Like, our bullpen is set up in a way that we can navigate some of these lefty lanes. We're not going to need to go to any one guy for too long. I mean, you look at prior to Riley O'Brien, Graceffo threw 6 pitches. Brule threw 13 pitches. Soriano 15. Stanek 10. Romero 12. They very clearly knew, all right, this is how we're going to navigate this thing. If we have to get aggressive with the bullpen, this is how we're going to deploy them. And they deployed them, I thought, almost perfectly. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't think you could have asked for a better bullpen deployment that day. Execution, no doubt you could have asked for something more. The bullpen arms were not particularly good on Saturday. But the way they were managed, I thought was perfect, especially if you're not going to be able to get more out of Matthew Liberatore. So the context I thought was really important. I agree with T-Bone. Having McGreevy go the next day, that's a big part of this. Having those bullpen arms be able to go in their individual lanes, that was a big part of it. And then once you get to Riley O'Brien, I thought 2 things were true. One, there comes a point in time where you have to make a decision on him of, is this just not going to be there for him today? And if so, do we let him wear it, or do we go to another arm out of our bullpen? I thought one thing you learned there, they very clearly do not trust Ryan Fernandez in a close game. Just flat out don't want to throw him. And so to me, I think that is an action that tells you all you need to know. And if I'm Chaim Bloom, that's the first move that I'm making. Hey, Fernandez, you got to get out of here. Mm-hmm. Because clearly our manager doesn't trust you in these situations. And then 2, at a certain point, O'Brien was going to be down the next day no matter what. And then Riley O'Brien is probably down for a couple of days once he gets to like 30 pitches. And when that's the case, you might as well let him wear it, because it's better to have him down for a couple of days than to have 2 bullpen arms down for the next day. So that's the way that I personally viewed it. I thought Ollie played it right. Yeah. And he tried to get aggressive to go win that game, go pick up the win, bank that one early on, and then you go into Sunday and take your best shot with Michael McGreevy on the mound. It didn't work. And that's going to be the reality of some of the decisions that you make as a manager in a rebuild season. But, man, it was a really fun game. They got to Brian Wu. Didn't see that one coming. I thought that was going to be an awful matchup for the Cardinals lineup. It was the opposite. And you managed the game the best way you could. And sometimes you take your shot and you lose. Mm-hmm. And that was the case for the Cardinals on Saturday.
Yeah.
Coming up here in about 15 minutes, we are witnessing some special performances by young talent in this year's postseason in the NHL. What does it say for the Blues that this is happening right now? We'll talk about that coming up here in just a little bit. Junk Drawer next here on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK, you got BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Alex, what is your opinion on upgrading yourself at Cardinals games if people don't show up to the games?
Like moving to their seats?
Yeah, like you're up in the nosebleeds. You get to the 5th, 6th inning, you're like, all right, nobody's showing up down below. You're like, all right, I'm just going to go ahead and mosey on down. I'm going to go ahead and take a lower level seat. Or are you somebody that's a rule follower and you're sitting in your seats? I'm one row below the very top of the upper deck. What's your view on that?
Before I answer, you're asking this like you know my answer already. What do you
I
think?
truly don't know.
Oh, okay, I was going to say, you're acting as if you think you know. I'm fine with it. I think that's how it should go. If those seats are open and it's got to get to a certain point. Like you said, the 5th or 6th inning.
Yeah, you don't go down there in the 2nd or 3rd inning.
Yeah, that's a jerk move. Or like in hockey in the 3rd
people
period.
show up late. I understand.
Yeah, hockey game 3rd period. But I'm all for it. Like, you paid to be in the ballpark. And if somebody's not going to show up to those tickets, you should be able to walk down there. And it's kind of hey, whoever gets to it first, great.
Yeah, I'm a fan of it as well. If you get to that 5th, 6th inning and you've been eyeballing a seat that's open that whole time, hey, man, that's yours. Get down there and you take that bad boy.
And if somebody comes in and says, hey, those are my seats.
You look like a jerk.
That's the reason.
You get up and you walk away.
That's the reason.
I'm sorry. We thought that there was nobody sitting here. We'll move around.
You don't look at the ticket and be like, oh, these are my seats too. And then when they say, show it to me, you're like, oh, no, they're not my seats.
That's the reason that I typically don't do it. It's just because I want to avoid that awkward confrontation. The walk of shame, the awkward confrontation of, these are our seats. Yeah, I'm sorry. I moved down 2 sections.
So I'm like you guys. My wife is the opposite. My wife,
really?
Yeah. She is somebody that does not, she's very much a rule follower. And so we were at the game on Friday night, and I was like, hey, we could just move down to the lower level. Like, there's not a whole lot of people down there right now. I'm looking at it like there's full sections where there's dozens of people.
Well, I would too. I watch the seats. I'm like, I want to move there and see if somebody shows up.
So I don't think most people really care. But if the person that's with you isn't into it, then you don't do it. But we did have, Alex, somebody that was sitting up next to us. They showed up in the probably 4th inning, I would say. They've got a couple of kids with them, and the guy looks back at us. It's me, my wife, and my son, Luca. He's like, hey, is it just, my son sat on Kara's lap. He's like, hey, is it just 2 of you guys with him? You're like, yeah. He said, well, listen, my kids were bored sitting below, so they wanted to come sit up here. He's like, I've got good seats. They're lower level. He's like, listen, we're not going to be sitting down there. Would you guys be interested in moving down? If so, I'll go ahead and send you the screenshot of the tickets. You guys can go sit down there.
Because I'm not leaving the $5 beers. Are you crazy?
It's like, absolutely. That sounds fantastic. So he sent us his tickets. We ended up getting row 12, lower level, down the 3rd baseline. Nice. And we got to sit there for the second half of the game.
That's great.
Shout out to my dude who gave us the free tickets to sit lower level. It was fantastic.
My dad used to have season tickets for Blues games. And to the scenario that you're talking about, when people would sit in seats that weren't theirs, there was an older couple that would sit next to me and my dad that also had season tickets. And they would get mad at people that would sit in seats in front of them because, it's typically a lot of season ticket holders. And I'll never forget, they used to lean over, and if somebody would sit there, they'd tap me like, you can't sit there. And, me and my dad were like, it's like, who cares? Nobody's sitting there.
That's
They're not interrupting you.
That's what I'm at.
But these people would go to the usher and tell them, they don't sit there. And it's like, God, I hate that. It's like, if nobody's there by the 3rd period, let somebody just sit in those seats. Plus the team would probably much rather those seats being filled than everybody in the upper section later in games.
Just got a text from an usher from the 314. As an usher at Busch, I actually encourage people to move down and fill the lower bowl seats. Cool. Now you know. Usher at Busch Stadium also would encourage.
At least one of them.
Yeah.
That's right.
You just got to find that right usher.
Yeah.
Somebody said, we moved down to the middle back of the 200s. 4 guys paid us $100 to trade us seats. Wasn't even ours. That's amazing. That's incredible. They got paid $100
What a steal.
for seats that weren't theirs. That's the way you do it.
That's the way to pay me to sit in your
hustling,
spots.
my friend. That's well
awesome.
done.
I need to do more of that.
From Sharon and Clayton, I'm the Blue season ticket holder. If you don't pay for my seats, I don't want you sitting on them. They cost a fortune. Get out.
Why are you not sitting in them, Sharon?
Well, that's the thing. It's like if nobody's sitting in, and again, this is if you're getting 1 period or 3 innings out of it,
what does it matter, man? Like, they let
Exactly.
people into Busch Stadium after what, the 7th inning for free? They could just come in and go where they want to watch the rest of the game?
I have no idea if that's true or not.
I thought that's what it was. I had a friend that worked there as an usher, and they said, like, either after the 6th or 7th inning, you could just kind of walk in. Now, I don't know if you can go to the seats. Maybe it's just you got to be in standing room. But regardless,
no idea.
What would it matter if it's late in the game? Who cares?
I don't think they just let people walk in.
I swear that's what it was. Somebody can correct me on that, but I could have sworn it's
That's
like
what we call a
after the
safety
6th
issue.
inning, you can
Yeah,
let people
I don't
in.
think that's.
Yeah. And we're not letting anybody in for
I wanted to make
free.
sure I was distancing myself from the.
Yeah. I am as well.
I could have sworn.
Yeah. Your buddy was definitely doing some
Well, they weren't
not,
even an usher
not
at that one.
approved stuff.
It was also like 7. Hold on, I'm looking at this.
That's not a thing.
It must not be.
No, yeah, it's not.
I feel like that would be a severe security risk.
Yeah.
Probably. I could have sworn that's what it was. Maybe it was
Somebody on
something
the text line said Alex is right, 7th inning. Somebody else said since 9/11 they don't do that any longer.
that would make sense.
So
I could have sworn it was something that was like after a certain inning that they would just kind of let you in, but
hasn't been
obviously there's
free in
some-
the 7th inning for the last 30 years, Alex.
Okay, well,
Definitely used to be a thing. Not sure they still allow that
I
anymore.
was not definitive on it. I was asking if it was still a thing.
10, 15 years ago, definitely a thing. Yeah. It feels
You
like
know
a lot
what?
of people saying they definitely used to do
You
this.
know what? Find out. Just go try and walk in after the 7th inning, the next homestand, and see
We've
what
had some
happens.
other people saying still a thing. So try it out. See how
Try
it
it
goes.
and then
Let us
report back
know.
on Monday.
Yeah, let us know. If you're going to the game later this week, seeing the Cardinals versus the Dodgers.
Oh,
By
that's
the way,
a-
good seats available
It's
right
a perfect game. I'm going Friday with my daughter.
now. It's Friday night is the Diet Coke theme ticket
I'm
night.
not a Diet Coke fan, but I'd still enjoy it.
What's
That's
the
why
thing?
we're going. It's a Diet Coke t-shirt. My wife really wanted
That's
that.
what, she really wanted a Diet Coke T-shirt.
Yep.
I can probably have my wife cricket one of those for her if she wanted to.
Probably, and it probably wouldn't cost me $45. But
Just
guess
to get a
what?
Diet Coke T-shirt.
That's right. A Diet Coke theme ticket for the St. Louis Cardinals game. It's Diet Coke night.
Never heard of any other two
I've
doing
never
that.
heard of a Diet Coke night
It was
before.
Grateful Dead night on Friday.
Those things are always sellouts.
Holy
Yeah.
crap, bro.
I can't believe how popular that
That's the
that
second
is.
most popular, if I'm not mistaken, blues theme nights to second to the Riz show. I think the Grateful Dead are like the second most popular
So
ones.
we like going up to the Budweiser Terrace.
And that's where they give out the special theme tickets, right?
No chance we were going to be able to get in there on Friday night.
That's where they had the live music too,
It
right?
was slammed like I've never seen it before.
Yep.
That's smart,
And we
man.
go there. I probably go to like 20 Cardinals games a year.
I have never gotten into the Grateful
Crazy.
Dead. I don't understand what the fascination of it is, but man, people love Grateful Dead.
One of the guys was on the Jumbotron during the game. They were doing like a trivia thing with some of the Deadheads. And this guy said he's been to somewhere between 200 and 250 Grateful Dead concerts.
Holy
Oh my God. I don't think I've done anything other than this show, 200 to 250
Yeah.
times.
I brag about going to see a band like 3 times
Yeah, I
and
was gonna
think
say,
that's incredible.
I think the most I've seen a band is 3, and that would be Zach Brown and AJR.
Yeah, it's crazy. But hey, God bless you.
That's
You like
awesome.
it. Good for you, man. All right, alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK, coming up next, there's some special performances that are taking place right now in the postseason by young talent in the NHL. Does it give you more excitement about what the Blues could be sooner rather than later? We'll talk about it next here on 101 ESPN. With Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. We've seen some really impressive performances so far this year in the postseason by young teams, Alex. I would say that's been the biggest theme so far in the playoffs, is these young players having a whole heck of a lot of success. You look at some of the teams that have moved on already. The Montreal Canadiens, average age is 26 years old. They're winning in their series. The Buffalo Sabres, average age is 26. You've got the Ducks at 27. The Stars right now are beating the Wild, and they are the younger team in that series. Same thing for the Mammoth, who are, relatively speaking, pretty young. What have you made of this, Alex? And how does it apply to the St. Louis Blues, who certainly have a whole lot of youth on their team as well?
I mean, it's hard to judge what it means for the guys that are on the Blues roster, because with the exception of Jimmy Snuggerud and Broberg and Holloway, if you want to lump them into this, you haven't seen these guys play in the playoff style. Like Dvorsky didn't get to do it last year, nor did Stenberg. But man, I watched that Ducks and Edmonton Oilers game last night. Watching that Cutter Gauthier goal, which I don't know if you guys saw it, I mean, it was an absolute rifle at probably the most critical moment of the hockey game, where he scored on the power play. Jackson Lacombe, who had a very underwhelming season, in my opinion, because he got paid that massive contract extension, and I don't think he was that great. That guy leads playoff players right now with 8 points and is a +5. If you don't have young guys that can perform in big moments, you're going to be so behind the curve of the NHL, because we didn't get to this earlier. You're seeing the new era of the NHL with all of these teams. Buffalo, Montreal, Utah, Anaheim. They're being led by their younger players. With the Ducks, Troy Terry, Leo Carlson, Jackson Lacombe, Cutter Gauthier. I look at the Blues, and I think Snuggerud and Holloway can be those guys on this level. I believe Philip Broberg can be that guy at this level, kind of like what a Jackson Lacombe has been for the Anaheim Ducks. And then Joel Hofer, you know, like some of these goaltendings have just underperformed in the playoffs, and you've got a guy that seems like he can do it. But you have to have that secondary weapons to do so, and that's where it's going to be so critical to see what Dvorsky's going to look like, what Carbonneau will look like, what Otto Stenberg will look like, because these guys may not have had the sexiest season in the regular season, but man, when they got to the postseason, their games went to the next level, and that's what really sets teams up for long-term success.
I think what we're seeing is, like, there's a difference between youth in terms of the average age on your team and experience. Because even some of these teams that are, relatively speaking, pretty young, they've got a decent amount of experience on their roster, right? Like, you look at the Minnesota Wild, they're younger than the Vegas Golden Knights, but they're one of the most experienced teams in the NHL right now. Dallas Stars, same thing. You look at a team like Carolina, not all that old, but they're incredibly experienced. And I also think we're seeing a bit of a changing of the guard in the NHL as well. I think that's some of what's happening. One, some of the teams that were going through rebuilds, that this is supposed to be when it pays off, well, it certainly didn't go the way that they were hoping. Like the Detroit Red Wings, they are now aging into the point where they should be contending. That should have been the plan for this year.
And
Washington is one of those.
They are the fifth oldest team in the NHL, guys. The Detroit Red Wings are. I don't see them playing in the postseason right now. The Winnipeg Jets, they're supposed to be contending right now. Nope. The LA Kings, supposed to be not only competing, contending. This is supposed to be their window. It hasn't happened. Devils, same thing for them. But for many of these teams that went through that tank, well, time for the next one. And for others that have been contending for years, like Colorado and Vegas and Toronto, and you look at a team as well like Edmonton, you're also potentially going through the next cycle. So we're seeing a lot of changes that are taking place this offseason. And I do think that can be a positive sign for the Blues, but you got to have the dudes.
Yep.
And right now, they're just not there yet.
Well, and that's why the Brady Tkachuk conversation is happening. Elliot Friedman had said it on 32 Thoughts today, and I agree with it. Like, there's a changing of the guard in the East. And Ottawa was in that window where it's like, all right, it's time to start pushing the chips in and win. And you got bounced to the first round. And what he said is, like, this isn't getting any easier. Buffalo and Montreal are just starting. Carolina has been in this winning window, and they're younger. Philadelphia is just starting. Boston is just starting. Washington is getting rid of some of their older pieces and transitioning to guys that are already performing well. You've got Detroit, you've got Columbus, and then in the West, I think Vegas's time is about to run stale. Edmonton's might as well, depending on what McDavid decides to do. In a couple of years, you might be saying the same thing about Colorado and Dallas. But now there's Minnesota, there's Anaheim, there's Utah, there's going to be the San Jose Sharks. If you're not in that window to where your guys are becoming dudes like Minnesota has, Buffalo has, then you're going to be on the outside looking in for a while, kind of like what the LA Kings were and what the Winnipeg Jets were. And that's why I find it fascinating, just to kind of put it into the perspective of the Blues. Man, there's this changing of the guard that's happening, and unless your guys take that next step, you might get caught standing without a chair when the music stops. And that's where it's like you might need to shift to really be aggressive to find some of those dudes so that you can expedite that younger growth of some of those pieces like Montreal and Buffalo and Utah have done.
The two teams that we've seen already advance in the playoffs, Alex, are Colorado. They swept in their series, and Carolina, they swept in theirs. The two number one seeds in their respective divisions. We also have Anaheim up 3-1 in their series. Buffalo is up 3-1 in their series, and Philly is up 3-1 in their series as well. Have you changed your opinion at all on who you think is going to win the Cup this year based upon what you have seen so far in the postseason?
No, I think one of Dallas or Minnesota is going to represent the Western Conference, and I think Carolina is going to be there in the East. I think a lot of people are
This is the year, huh?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you don't have to deal with Florida. If you look at their bracket, that was an easy game for them, which probably shouldn't have been. Philadelphia is going to win that series, and I think Carolina's got the better team in Philadelphia. Agreed. And then you're talking about taking on one of Buffalo, Montreal, or Tampa. I know people are excited about Buffalo, and Buffalo has done a really good job with this Boston series. But, man, you've got to have some battle wounds when it comes to the playoffs, and I think Buffalo is going to have to experience those at some point. So, I think Carolina and one of Dallas or Minnesota is going to win the Stanley Cup this year, and I kind of thought that going into the postseason.
314-399-9646. That is the Air Comfort Service text line. We'll get into in or out coming up next. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. You guys give us a scenario. We will tell you if we are in or out here on BK and Ferrario. In or out, JJ Wetherholt will hit at least 25 home runs this year, Alex. He's on pace for 30 right now.
Man, I'm going to say in because even though I think he will hit those dry spells at some point when the league adjusts, he is just so good in terms of commanding that strike zone that I think he will force pitchers into making bad pitches to him. And I think the power's there, so it might be aggressive. I'll say in.
I think I'm going to say out. I don't think he's going to miss by much, but I don't care what the projections say right now because I know after about 120 games he's going to hit a wall. And the reason I say that is we see this a lot with kids when they first get up here at the big league level. They play about 120, 130-ish down in the minor leagues. And then it's that extra 30 games that really gets him. So I think at some point he's going to go cold. It'll probably sap the power a little bit, sap the numbers. I think he'll be like 23 is where I'll put him. I think he'll just fall short.
I'll say out as well. I think you're eventually going to see I think you'll see the doubles number go up, the home run numbers start to go down. And I think overall, that's not a bad thing. You know, like that can be maybe it becomes a more productive player over time if he's not just selling out for home run power. So I'll say out. I think he goes a little below that. But Alex, what do you have for us today?
Guys, in or out, a Blues trade will involve a team that didn't make the playoffs this offseason. So that rules out a Brady Tkachuk trade for those that are wondering. And also rules out a Jason Robertson trade.
Yeah. I'll say in. I don't know who this team would be just yet, but I could see maybe it's a non-playoff team that acquires Kyrou. Or it's a non-playoff team that acquires Parayko that thinks they're close if they decide to trade Parayko. So I would say in. I think it's they could still pull off a trade with someone.
Give me the scenario again.
So the Blues, in or out, will make a trade this offseason with a team that did not make the playoffs.
I think they'll make some kind of a trade. Yeah, I'll say in.
Yeah, I'm in on this one as well. I think the Kyrou one, I won't go away from Washington. I still think Washington's an intriguing one because they need more offense and speed, and the Devils are another one that I think would also look at that as well. So I'll say in.
Guys, in or out? The Cardinals' starting outfield alignment by the end of the year will be Joshua Baez, Nathan Church, Jordan Walker.
Out, because I think Lars Nootbaar will be on this team.
I think he'll be traded.
I think he's traded in the offseason.
I can see that.
Because if he comes back from injury, people are going to want to see a decent sample size.
I'll say in. That sounds very plausible to me.
I would say in as well, though the Nootbaar one's a good point. My hope, and I said this at the time when they put him on the 60-day when everybody panicked about he wouldn't get enough playing time. By the time he gets back, he's going to have about, a month and a half to kind of prove that that he's back to old form. I think a month and a half is perfect enough sample size for some teams to say, you know what, we need a left-handed hitting outfielder that gets on base at a decent clip, and some team may still be willing to trade for him.
Can I add one real quick? In or out, Lars Nootbaar is traded before Nolan Gorman.
In.
Because I wonder if another team looks at Gorman and says, let's take a chance on that and get a left-handed hitter.
I could see it.
I could see it too. I think Nootbaar would be traded first, though, because he's got more value.
We've seen teams trade for like
sense.
Eloy Jimenez at the trade deadline and say, we got our power. So if they view that as being a power bat, left-handed power is always going to have some kind of value across Major League Baseball, even if you don't view it as being meaningful. Dylan Carlson had value at a deadline. Not a lot, but something.
Well, look at Gallo. Gallo had value. The Yankees traded for him from Texas.
All right, let's get to these from the text line. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line from the 314. In or out? Neighbors, Benner, Carbonneau, and Detroit's pick for Brady Tkachuk would get the deal done. Neighbors, Benner, Carbonneau, and Detroit's pick. Those 4 assets.
Man, that feels like a lot to give up, but I would say in.
I would say in as well. I think that would get it done. They need goaltending. They want young scoring Carbonneau and Neighbors, who you said.
And then a mid-first round pick.
I think that would really do it. I would do it too.
I would try and sway them to take Kyrou instead of Carbonneau.
But they may be thinking long-term. Well, I guess Kyrou's
locked up and he's more proven.
At least, there's
I think
you dream on upside for Carbonneau,
I think they would prefer Kyrou, though, because it's more return that helps you now. And if you're trading for Binnington, you're going to want to try and win within a couple of years.
You want to hear something really unpopular? I would rather trade Carbonneau than Kyrou in this deal.
That's very unpopular. I would not agree with that.
If you've got a line, like next year, if you went into the season and it was Holloway, Thomas, and Snuggerud on your top line, Kyrou, Dvorsky, and Brady Tkachuk on that second line, I can win with that. Brady Tkachuk is going to take a lot of attention away from Jordan Kyrou.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I think I would much rather have a line of Carbonneau, Tkachuk, and Dvorsky.
Who do you have centering that line?
Dvorsky. I don't think that you have another option.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Ideally, you'd have somebody
Suter.
different, but I just don't think it's realistic.
That's the part for me that I just don't know with Brady, because I gotta wonder. When we had Army on the podcast, I asked him where he felt like they were deficient, and he said the center position. Like I as much as you would want Brady Tkachuk, that doesn't fix your biggest weakness right now, which is the center spot.
It's a multi-year build, though.
Here's the other.
It allows you to be in position to whenever you do get that center. I've got wingers that are good to go with him.
Here's the other thing, too, for people that are just saying, well, Binnington would get it done. They have Linus Ullmark for the next 3 years at $8.25 million, who's got a no-move clause. They're not taking on Binnington unless Linus Ullmark is off the team.
I mean, you could also eat 50% of the salary.
Yeah, especially since it's only 1 year.
It's only a 1 year deal. But if they're trading for Binnington, I would think they're going to be like, yeah, but we want to try and keep Binnington, which then you're going to have a lot. Like, I think they would like to actively, if they can go find a number one goaltender, get Ullmark off of their roster. So in or out, you would take on Linus Ullmark's 8.25 contract for the next 3 years.
That's fine.
With the understanding that Joel Hofer's probably going to get paid a decent amount.
I would say they need to find someone else to take Ullmark.
And Ullmark has a no move
I would
clause.
need them to eat some of that money, but yeah, I'm fine with that.
Ullmark's got a no move, and you'd have that for 3 years if you took him on.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm out on.
I don't have another
Ullmark.
backup if they're eating. Let's say they eat half the salary on that, and then you just make it cash neutral, more or less.
I don't think they would eat it. I think they would say, no, you got to take the whole thing if you want Brady.
Because if they're going to try
I'm doing you a favor in this scenario. I'm helping you get out of a contract that you don't want if you're the Ottawa Senators and you're trying to get rid of Ullmark. I will help you do that, but I can't take on the full salary.
If they'd eat it to the point where it's the same amount as Jordan Binnington, I'd do that.
Yeah.
He's my
$6 million for the next few years.
Just tell Joel Hofer it's like you're going to get paid. You might need to do a little bit of a bridge because he's still an RFA for a couple years after this one, or maybe it's just 1 year.
It's basically 2 years that we're talking about here, that being a potential problem, because you already have the $6 million on the books for Binnington next year. That's a sunk cost. You're going to have that no matter what. So it's the 2 years after that where you're adding money to your books. I don't see it as
Hofer's
all that
only
big of a deal.
1 year of RFA, then he's a UFA, so you probably have to pay him long term. But
Which is fine. Basically, you're saying I'm overpaying for my goalie tandem for 2 years.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah. And the other thing is, like, Ullmark, I don't think Ullmark is a guy that can win in the playoffs. We've seen it enough. Ullmark is a really good guy to have in the regular season to be a 50-50. Like, remember he and Swayman in Boston for those years, they dominated because he wasn't relied on as the number one. So if that's a dude that's only playing 30, 35 games for me, it's not a bad spot to be in.
All right, from the 3-1-4, in or out by the end of the season, none of Walker, Gorman, or Scott will be considered to be part of the core. I'm out on this. I think Walker will still be part of it.
What Walker showed you early on is life. So I think he'll be a part of it no matter what.
Yeah, I'm out as well. It would almost Gorman and Scott I can definitely see in that conversation. Walker's the one to where he got off to such a hot start. It would almost take like a torrid bad start for him to really fall out of the picture.
And it's possible.
It is possible, but I'm hoping, like yesterday, we haven't really talked about it. Yesterday was, he had started to go through some slumps. You'd seen it. He started chasing after the sweeper a little bit. And now, yesterday, took 2 walks and had some pretty good at-bats. So my hope is that this is kind of a little bit of a mini reset. Brent Brown's talking to him, and they're trying to get this all squared away.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for in or out. From the 636, in or out, Tavon Austin became our favorite ex-St. Louis Ram that wasn't on the greatest show on turf this weekend when he announced the pick for the Rams and said, shout out to St. Louis.
And anytime you can smear it on LA, I'm all on board with that one.
Sure, I'll say in. Why not?
Yeah, that's fine.
I didn't even know he did that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, it's because LA cut it out of the clip and then posted it on social media.
I was doing all other stuff. Didn't see day 2. Didn't even pop up on my feed.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. A former MLB general manager posted this week what he thinks it would take to extend JJ Wetherholt. Would you be willing to do it? We'll talk about it next here on 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendrickson here with the Sports Center update brought to you by Universal Windows Direct. Cardinals fell to the Mariners yesterday as they got swept over the weekend at home by Seattle. They head out on the road for a 4-game set at the Pittsburgh Pirates, which starts tonight. 5:40 will be first pitch. Dustin May will be on the mound for St. Louis. Looks like a bullpen game for the Pittsburgh Pirates. The Sports Center update was brought to you by Universal Windows Direct. You'll be saying, I love my windows.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. So earlier today, I was reading over on The Athletic, and a gentleman by the name of Jim Bowden, former Major League Baseball general manager, put out what he titled as an article on young MLB players that are strong candidates for long-term extensions. We've seen a lot of these, Alex. Connor Griffin got one. Kevin McGonigal got one. Roman Anthony last year. Colt Emerson. There have been a lot of young players across Major League Baseball that have signed these long-term extensions somewhere in the 6 to 9 year range to buy out their pre- and regular arbitration years. He mentioned one St. Louis Cardinal on this list, and it's JJ Wetherholt. No surprise. He says the market value for JJ would be 8 years and $135 million, writing the following. Wetherholt was my preseason pick for NL Rookie of the Year because I love his ability to reach base along with the above-average power and speed. He's made an easy transition from short to second and is an above-average defender at second, ranking in the 97th percentile already this season in outs above average and 98th percentile in fielding. He's a tremendous teammate who looks like he could be a clubhouse leader as well. 8 years, $135 million. He's 23 years old. You've already got him under contract, Alex, for 6 years through the arbitration process, assuming that nothing changes with the new CBA. Is this something you would be considering if you're in the St. Louis Cardinals shoes?
No, I wouldn't. You just said it. I've got him under control for 6 years, so I'm paying for 2 extra years, which at the age of 29, if this guy looks like a superstar, I'm going to pay him no matter what. And so if he's 29 and I'm wanting to pay him 2 more extra years now, man, I'd rather just pay him 6 more years at the age of 29, where if his price goes up, that's great, man. If you're a superstar, then I should pay you that type of money. So, no, I wouldn't. I don't think it makes any sense for the Cardinals to do that. Just keep with what they're doing right now. Let him go out there and continue to perform year by year and have that incentive to continue to raise his game.
I wouldn't either, even though I don't know that that's necessarily a bad deal that Bowden put out there, but I wouldn't do it, and it's twofold. One, as we've seen with the Cardinals in recent past, I want to see a guy do it for 2 years before I even talk about contract extension, and I know that might mean it bumps up the value on the deal a little bit. I don't want to get burned, right? Like, potentially, I don't think it's going to happen to him, but if he went through Jordan Walker, where it's 2 years of being one of the worst hitters in baseball, okay, well, I'm not getting value for my money there. And then, two, as much as I like Wetherholt's game, and this is still yet to be determined, but I don't know if he's going to be a guy that's going to outprice himself from the Cardinals. And what I mean by that is, I think a superstar would, right? If Walker had been able to put what he did in the first half of this year already, but had done that for 3 years, that's a superstar in the making that would have outpriced himself from the Cardinals, that you would have wanted to get on a deal so you could try and get 2 free agent years bought out, which they're trying to do in that Wetherholt example there. The reason I say that, though, is I'm not sure Wetherholt's going to become that kind of guy that's going to outprice himself through the ARB system. And if that's the case, the Cardinals could keep that kind of guy. They could have kept a guy like Brendan Donovan, who we talked about early on in the segment. Donovan was never going to outprice himself as a Cardinal. You could have gotten that guy and paid him through free agency. Same with Tommy Edman. Edman was never going to be a guy that was going to outprice himself from the St. Louis Cardinals. So that's why I wouldn't do it, is because I just don't think this is a guy that you have to fear of once he hits the market, he's going to completely outprice himself from you.
That's where I'm at. I mean, you're talking about him getting to free agency at the age of 30. How many guys at the age of 30 really get paid? Like, really paid to the point where the Cardinals could not be in the conversation to re-sign him?
Just the guys like
the
Alonso's
superstars.
the name I would think of, but Alonso's
You could have given him that deal. Yeah.
Exactly. It would be like the true superstars, and I don't know how
and most
Soto
of those guys
was.
hit it at 26.
Yeah.
Like, Soto got the money that he did because of his
Tucker,
age.
maybe? How old's
Again,
Tucker?
27.
Okay.
Guys that hit the market at the age of 30 just don't get these long-term deals that you're like, oh, the Cardinals would never do that. $40 million a year for 8 years? Oh, they wouldn't be in on that. Yeah, well, they wouldn't be in on it, but that's not going to exist for JJ Wetherholt when he gets to free agency because he's going to be 30 years old when he hits the market.
Trey Turner was 30, wasn't he?
He's like 27, I think.
Oh, see, I thought he was because he was 30 in Philly. Wasn't that where he signed the contract extension? Because he was traded to L.A.
Yeah, but I don't think he was that old when he hit free agency.
He was 30 in Philly.
Yeah, I'm underestimating it. Yeah, Trey Turner would have been the one example of
And
this.
how much money did he get paid?
11 by 300.
Yep, and I think the Cardinals could have done that.
Yeah,
They could have
Cardinals
done
would've
it.
done that.
They probably would have used the excuse that they wouldn't. But as we've seen with that contract, that probably would have been a good job to avoid it.
Yeah. So yeah, that's there you go, Alex. You found one. That would be, in all seriousness, one of the very few examples of the kind of deal where he could sign that and you'd be like, probably not going to do that. And it's probably a landmine that's worth avoiding. So the reason I bring this up is because I did some math on this through the arbitration system, which again, I don't know what the next CBA is going to look like, if this will continue to be the way that they do these entry-level deals or not. But assuming they do, and the Cardinals won't know this right now either, nobody does, because we don't know how the CBA is going to go next offseason. You're projecting about $1 million each of the next 3 years, this year and then the next 2, through the pre-arb process. And that's probably overstating things a little bit, but let's just make it an easy round number, $1 million. Then in year 1 of arbitration, like Gunnar Henderson this year is getting $8.5 million. That's about as much as you could ever ask for in year 1 of an arb system. So let's go ahead and give him that, $8 million in year 1. Say he's every bit as good as we all expect him to be. Year 2, let's say he's amazing, Rafael Devers, right? Okay, well, that's about $11 million. Let's go up from there. For inflation, $12 million year 2 of arbitration. And then let's say he's unbelievable, continues on this crazy pace. Year 3, he's Francisco Lindor, gets $20 million in arbitration. I don't think that's particularly likely, but again, let's operate under the assumption that he's every bit as good as we're all hoping that he can be. The player that I just mentioned and the deals that I just mentioned through the arbitration system, that's 6 years, and it would be worth about $43 million. We just talked about giving him an 8-year deal worth $135 million. Y'all think those extra 2 years are worthy of $90 million?
No.
Me either. That's why you don't get this deal done now.
Yep.
There's just no need to do it unless he's willing to come off of that ask, and instead of 8 years at 135, you get something closer to like 8 years and 80. And I don't think he's going to do that. So I don't think it makes sense for either of the two parties to get this deal done right now. If you get into like year 2 of arbitration, you want to talk about it? Cool. I'm good with that, with a couple of years left on the deal. But right now, I don't think it really benefits either of the two parties to get a deal like this done.
It would almost have to be probably more of what the Churio deal is. And Churio's deal is 8 by 82.
That's the kind of deal that I would consider.
That's one where even I, as a guy that's not a contract extension enthusiast, would say that fits more in the ballpark and is one that I would at least really consider potentially doing with him, because that's one that fits the market that you're talking about. You don't end up with $90 million that he's got to be up to that level for the 2 years going into the free agency. That's the one that if you're going to do it, I think that's the one the Cardinals would be trying to offer up to JJ.
100%. That's the kind of contracts that you'd potentially be looking at that would benefit the Cardinals, and it gives him the long-term security of, hey, man, you're going to get $80 million guaranteed the moment that you sign this dotted line. Right now, you don't have anything guaranteed to you beyond this year. But if you sign this dotted line, it's $80 million that you and your family will never have to work again. And that's the kind of situation where the Cardinals would then take on some risk, yeah. But it's not the same amount as taking on basically 2 years at $40 a year. He better be a superstar if that's what you're locking yourself into at the very back of this contract that you're looking at here. I think that the numbers are just either wrong or overly inflated if this is the kind of thing that we're talking about here through the arbitration process and then eventually getting that kind of a contract for him. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. We'll put a bow on this thing and give you the rewind next here on 101 ESPN. Hey, it's BK, and it is time for you to unlock your inner champion. And the place to do so is with my friends over at Victory Men's Health. They've done it for me. They can do it for you. That means different things for everybody, though. For some, that means taking advantage of their supplement shop. That's what it was for me. Went in there, got a micronutrient lab, found out where all of my levels were at, and then they were able to personalize a plan for me that is going to be the best, allow me to be the best version of myself. That's what it looked like for me. Maybe for you, it is low testosterone symptoms that you've been feeling, or weight loss goals that you're trying to meet. Maybe it's sexual health that you'd like to get helped out with. It's all available for you today over at Victory Men's Health. Book that first appointment online today at victorymenshealth.com. It's an incredibly easy process. Put in your name, email, phone number, tell them BK with 101 ESPN sent you, and then tell them what it means for you to unlock your inner champion. That initial visit will include a consultation with a licensed medical provider. They'll do all of that lab work, and you can potentially use your HSA or FSA if that's something that you'd like to do. It's all available for you today at Victory Men's Health and online at victorymenshealth.com. You guys know I listen to a lot of this guy in Pittsburgh, right? Andrew Filipponi.
If you want me to be honest, this is the first time I've heard that.
I've never heard you mention this guy before.
Andrew Filipponi,
had him
I
on
think,
the
does
show.
a really good job. We have not.
I don't think
I don't
Pittsburgh
think
Afternoon Radio. And he's been doing the show out there for 15 years. It's wildly successful. He just quit, up and quit. Can I tell you why he quit?
No. Oh, yes.
He said if the Steelers draft Drew Aller, I will step away from radio. And he's actually doing it. He literally just quit his job.
This has got to be a shtick.
I don't think so, dude.
This has got to be
I just saw the video of it. I think he's done. Can you imagine?
That's like if I say that the Blues get the first overall pick and they draft a defenseman with it, I'm going to stop doing sports talk radio.
He just flat out like quit his job today. And it seems like he shocked his co-host by doing it.
I call BS. I think this is a shtick.
You think?
I think this is a shtick. You don't just quit this gig.
I mean, he left the show today.
Hey, you can do that for a day.
Yeah, you could do it as if it's a shtick. You can come back tomorrow. That's how you get the listeners up. Be like, what? And then tomorrow he's back on.
It would be awesome if we did it for a week, because that would really
That's how you, yeah.
And then he come back.
Okay.
He has vacation built up. And it's like, I'm just going to do this.
He's going to the
Just-
Bahamas for a week.
This is like when wrestlers in pro wrestling back in the day would go out with an injury and they'd be like, what's going
You know
on?
how many
And
John Cena retirements I've had?
you see him on television. Somebody like, hey, I thought you were injured.
Kind of a weird shtick, right? If it is a
Maybe,
shtick.
but like people are diehards in Pittsburgh, man, especially for their football. And if you stick to something and say, like you were so adamant about Nolan Arenado not being on this team.
Yep.
If he
I was
would have
right.
been here, and if you would have done the shtick with it, I mean, I think the ratings go through the roof for stuff like that
think?
because, because
If
you're
I
off the
leave,
air.
though?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Ratings through the
I
roof.
think for that day, man, come on, man.
T-Bone and I, high five! Yeah!
Promotion.
What is the thing that you would feel confident enough to say if you were really going to pull through
I
with
can't
it?
believe that, by the way, was the
Nothing.
thing that he would say.
I have 4 mouths to feed in my house, so nothing will make me
Like
that
Alex's
confident.
one would be one that would be like shocking, and it'd be like a franchise big move, like drafting a defenseman with the #1 overall pick.
Yeah.
Drafting Drew Aller with what, the 5th or 6th round pick?
What does
Like,
that
He was a
matter?
3rd round pick by then, by the way.
I mean, that is
So
a
maybe
reach,
that-
but even that is still one that I'm like, I can't even believe that was in his that he said that on air.
Yeah,
at all.
like that would be the equivalent for me to where it's like, I'm so adamant about you need a goal scorer on this team. The Blues win the lottery, and I say if they draft a defenseman with the 1st overall pick, I will step away from the radio.
Yeah.
That's the equivalent. But this is like, come on, man.
I felt confident enough in the Arenado thing that I probably could have done it. Well, I'd have been like, I'll quit if
I
Arenado
would
is
have
on,
called
here
him,
on opening day.
begged Heimblum, like, just please trade him
There was
whenever
no
you want.
scenario in which he was going to be here.
You need to keep him for a
Which
little
wasn't
bit
happening.
longer.
All right.
T-Bone and Ferrario.
It's going to be a rough day in terms of the weather here in St. Louis, so stay safe out there. If you are in a situation where you can go home and just work from home, be around the fam, whatever, probably do so today. It seems like it's going to be like this for a while here in St. Louis. So stay safe out there. Appreciate each and every one of you that made us a part of your day here today. Cardinals back in action this evening. Speaking of Pittsburgh, they will be on the road in Pittsburgh to take on the Pirates. It's Dustin May on the mound this evening. He'll be going up tonight against Mason Montgomery, a left-handed starter for Pittsburgh. Alex, how you feeling going into this series against the Pirates?
Better than I did in the Mariners series, and I think I'm a little bit more optimistic because this offense has found a way to be consistent and we got to Seattle's pitching, but Pittsburgh's pitching's elite as well. And I think your bullpen is just at that point now where you're just going to be in a rough spot. So I think you win a game. I think you lose this series just because Pittsburgh's pitching is going to make life so difficult for you.
I know this sounds weird, but I'm kind of interested to see what the offense looks like tonight, particularly because it's kind of a
Left-handed pitcher.
Well, not just that it's a bullpen game. It's a bullpen with Montgomery's kind of an opener, and then they go to a bulk inning kind of young prospect, so someone that you're not going to have a ton of info on, and then they'll be able to mix and match throughout the game. This is one of those games where it's tough to kind of prepare for as an offensive player, right? Like you can go into a game if you're Burley saying, "All right, I'm going to see George Kirby like 3 times," for example.
They've
Now
had
you're
really
not
good
going to get
plans
that.
for opposing starting pitchers.
Yeah,
this
so
year.
I'll be curious to see what it looks like now that they're going against their first kind of opener so far this year.
Yep, I'll be curious to see what that looks like as well. And I mean, the rest of the series is not as though they've got terrible pitching going up against you. It's Paul Skeens and Keller in one of these games as well. So you're going to see some really good starters. Bubba Chamberlain as well, or Chandler, excuse me, as well in one of these games. So you got some good pitching on the other side. If you split this series, I think you come away feeling pretty good if you're the Cardinals.
Agreed.
Win 2 out of the 4, find a way to do it. Don't really care how it looks. That's ultimately what I believe should be the goal heading into this series against Pittsburgh. Appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in today. It's 1:56. Your time check brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers, an officially licensed Rolex jeweler. Tomorrow we will be joined by Jeremy Rutherford. I'm going to guess we'll probably talk to him a bit about the Brady Tkachuk
He
situation.
already told me no Tkachuk questions.
Okay, well, we will ask. He doesn't have to answer. We'll do that for you guys tomorrow. We will also talk to Derek Gould. I saw Derek out of the City game over the weekend.
Match. God, man, you don't go to them and not get the terminology correct. At
Idiots.
some point, the Lugans are not gonna let you in because you keep calling it incorrectly.
The one thing, it's pretty expensive in terms of the food out there. Good food, little pricey food.
That sounds about right.
like 20
Damn,
bucks
it's
for
good.
anything you want.
That's ridiculous, man. I've officially become a snob in this sense. I don't want to go spend money on food. I just want to cook at home.
Had some kind of
it's
chicken
cheaper.
tacos there earlier this year. I'll tell you, it was expensive, but god damn, it was good.
Yeah, I got Balkan, and that's awesome. Like, the Balkan Treat Box is a fantastic spot here locally, and they had great food, but I was like, damn, I'm paying 20 bucks for this? I don't even get fries. It's an extra $6 for the
Can you
fries.
throw me something in a little bit, please?
Like, all right, man, I guess I'll go ahead and...
Gotta pay for good food, man.
All right, so we'll talk to you guys tomorrow at 11 a.m. Fast Lane's coming up next here on 101 ESPN.